Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Esoteric Circus podcast, number whatever it is. I'm Melodee.
I'm Jamie.
And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. We're trying to build our subscriber base up from scratch. Please. Oh my gosh, please. And kind of the things that we do here on this podcast, we talk about everything esoteric. So that means paranormal, cryptid, supernatural, the angelic realm, ancient mystery school teachings, solar flares, EMF, geoengineering, you name it, we're talking about it. Also, strange things that we notice. But we have a background as circus performers and performers in general. We have been on a lot of things. So we have a big base in our real life, but then we're building this base now.
Yeah. It is crazy. Now, last I heard, I was checking on it right before I came in, and it's starting to come back on. But it's been like a whole day or whatever, for them. But I think they're starting to get it fixed. But it kind of makes you think too, if that happens here, there's certain people now, circus people, we know how to live off the grid. We're good. Right. We know how to make shift this, that, and the other and get our rest. Circus people will survive the apocalypse, no doubt. But you think about the people who are so they rely on technology for everything. And you and I are that Gen X, Zennial period to where we didn't have GPS. and even before MapQuest, we had to just drive to wherever we were going and have a physical map and figure it out. Imagine all these poor people who, if the grid does shut down for a day would probably be okay, but imagine a week if it was just total shutdown. I mean, the chaos.
Dude. Well, and even okay, so here in rural Texas, you've got a lot of people that have just kind of, I think Texans in general are suspicious of any kind of government power. I think we're just kind of just born like that. I've never known any Texan that wasn't kind of yeah, but you could turn on us. It's that. There's a whole mentality here, y'all. And it's real. Every stereotype you've ever heard about Texas is there for a reason.
Texas is its own little country. Nobody is more proud of their state than Texans.
No, and
as an outsider looking in.
I feel like I am very much okay, yeah, I'm 30,000, but listen, I right now I get like that if it's because you're so no, but I'm a Texan. I mean, it's that, and it's such a strange thing because you're born like that.
Yeah,
and I never call myself an American.
You're just a Texan. I'm telling you, Texas is a whole other place.
Yeah, when I was all over Europe and in Israel and all these places, they'd be like, "Where are you from?" And I'd be like, "Texas." And they're you guys are the only state that the only people in all of the United States that do that.
Yeah.
And then we're fiercely loyal. Even there's some people I really hate that live in the state. But if it came down to it, I'm but they're native Texans, so.
So what you're saying is basically everything in King of the Hill is accurate.
Dude, that actually was okay. So let's sidebar. This is all fun. So Mike Judge, right?
Yeah.
It's from where I'm from. So
oh my God.
No, my dad's neighborhood, it was my grandparents' neighborhood. All the streets and everything, those are the same streets that are in the show. Garland High School, Garland. Yeah. So I can show you if I could bust it out right now. So my yearbook from when I was a sophomore, there was these two dudes that were seniors, but they were 19 and, or maybe 20. And, they're in there and one wore an AC/DC t-shirt and they're it was Beavis and Butthead because Mike Judge, knew, he went there.
Get out.
Fact. He was half a semester in Garland High School, which is the old high school. Everybody knows it. It's famous, but anyway. My history teacher, who was started as a substitute, was named Peggy. Okay. And Peggy, and she was like this, and she was just like, okay. And we loved her, but she was a substitute, but she was super serious about it. Anyway, but she ended up like just being our teacher like for years, but she was a sub. It's weird. But yeah, that whole area and the propane store and the whole thing, and
Oh
like
my
that area
God.
that's like the hotel, that's Casa, whatever, that's Castle Linda Shopping Center. Like went there all the time. All that. But like, yeah. And then my best friend that I've known the longest, Jeff, shout out. Like, so Grok, the AI thing, you know, I showed you that picture. I think I sent it to you.
Yeah.
So Elon's AI did like a whole thing with King of the Hill. And like, it's so funny that you can't even wrap your head around it. So they made them into real people.
Yeah.
But the first person who sent it to me was my best friend I grew up with, like same street. I thought he was my brother. I mean, like for real.
Yeah.
But they sent that, and it was he sent me that picture, one of them, and it was the one with Dale and like all the dudes, and then Hank's barbecuing, and then Jeff goes, "Tell me that wasn't our neighborhood. Tell me that wasn't happening
Oh my God.
behind my house every single night." And it's like,
Wow.
it's so true. Including like the token, like Native American guy that rode a motorcycle, like that, like had like sex with every like wife that was in that area when their husbands were back. For fact.
Real life John
So
Redcorn. It's
it was John
amazing.
Redcorn. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, but yeah, Texas, the King of the Hill is probably I mean, yeah, they nail it. But it's all, that's, no, they really, because that's my dad. My dad is straight up Hank Hill. Like, I mean, 100%. Like he gets a lot of things, but then there's some things that he's just not going to get.
Yeah.
You know? Like he just can't, he won't go there. But
that's funny.
Anyway, it's great. But yeah, Texas, we've got our own grid here. So, which we're real proud of. We have a distrust for government. So we've kind of always been prepared.
Okay.
To be off the grid is my point.
Yeah. I think most of Georgia, the good old boys on this part of Georgia, the outside of Georgia, are good. And then you have Atlanta that would just forget it. Nobody in Atlanta's gonna survive.
Dallas would sink into the pit.
Yeah.
All of Dallas.
Same with Atlanta.
Bloodbath on the streets.
Yeah. But I live right on the edge. Like, here's Atlanta, here's me, here's the country. Like, I'm borderline. Like, I'd probably have to get out of here, or at least have like a shotgun at the door. But
definitely that. At least that.
Yeah.
And there's like a sick thing where it's like, we'll lead into our topic of the day, but trust me, it's good. There's a sick, twisted thing where I think everyone, like if you go, there's so many memes, dude. But if you go on like TikTok or like Instagram or whatever, it's like, they'll be like, you know, like it'll say like Texans, and then it'll say like, have always secretly been waiting for this, because it's true. It's like
you're ready.
There's always been like an element of excitement, because everyone here, if there's a tornado, nobody's inside the house.
Yeah.
Like all the men, they're outside, like they're gonna fight it. And it's just a mentality that's so crazy. It's just so crazy. And it is pompous as hell. It is pompous, I'll admit it. We brag. We're very braggadocious, and people from other countries know it. And
people from other states know it, because the first time I ever went to Texas was when I had to go to the convention in San Antonio.
No kidding?
Yeah, that's the first time I ever went to Texas. And so I remember driving as much as I could, and I was like, oh, I'm finally in Texas. Thank God, it's been a long drive. And then we had to go all the way to San Antonio, and I was like, oh my God, what do you mean we got like 8 hours left? Like, what the so, or however long it was. But anyway, so we stopped at a hotel, and the next morning they had like free breakfast, and I about died because I went downstairs, and I promise you, I have a picture of it. The waffle maker was in the shape of the state of Texas.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? I've been to every like state. Like, I mean, I usually just fly in and fly out, but like this one I was driving through, but like, yeah, the waffle iron made you Texas shaped waffles. And I was like, You got to be kidding me. I've never seen this anywhere else. I was like, Texas loves Texas. And then we went to like the HEB or the Heap or whatever you call it, which was a nice store. And they had Texas shaped butter.
Yeah.
And I was like, are you effing kidding me? Like, I've never seen this in any other state
And
ever.
it's not for tourists. That's the funny part. It's not, they don't make that for the tourist. That's just for us.
Really?
Yeah, no, like I mean, I have one tattoo.
I know.
The state of Texas, one, because only one will work, and it was the state of Texas. And then, like, we're more likely to put the shape of our state than we are Jesus Christ himself. Okay? And so, I mean, this is turning into such a funny thing.
I know, we got to get back on topic, but...
No, we're good. But this is everybody's going to love it. Y'all going to love it. But, like, the South, too. Like, I love the South. Like, so I'm loyal to the South, too. Like, Georgia and all, you know, I'm cool. Florida's a little wild.
Yeah.
But Florida, what y'all doing?
You don't want to know what they're doing, because they're doing some crazy stuff you don't want to know.
Like, I like them, though, because they're like, yeah, whatever, man. You know, like, they're cool. Like, I kind of like y'all's wild. But see, like, then we got our Louisiana brothers and sisters, and there's a lot of Texans that are related to Louisianans. You know, we trust them. Oklahoma, we don't talk about.
Really?
Oh, no, there's a whole thing.
Oh, so Oklahoma's your Alabama? Because Georgia's like with Alabama, like it's like the step kid that everybody makes fun of. I guess it's every state has that.
Yeah, like we like Oklahoma as far as the history of it and whatever, but nobody like. Thank you, Oklahoma, for your casinos. We like that, but we don't. We try not to talk about it. But yeah, and then it's like there's a whole thing about like if somebody's kind of dim-witted, we're like, oh, they're from Oklahoma, and a lot of times they are. But no, it's true. But yeah, no, because it's just like it's real slow in Oklahoma, you know. It's like the wind and it's like kind of far west Texas is like that. It's just real open, you know, tumbleweeds and you know, it's that, and I think that makes a different kind of mentality. But then there's the different, it's living in the time period we're living in now, and being a Texan is hysterically funny. Being from the South is funny in this time period because, again, we're just kind of ready. Like, yeah. I think the last 5 years, like, everybody was like, oh, so this is what's going on. Like, in the South, it was all right then. You know, and it was like, all right, so here we go. Yeah. And, you know, like our grandparents told us about this. This was going to happen. So, yeah. But, I mean, my family, my granddad would talk about Santa Ana and the Alamo when he'd take me to school as though it was happening, like that it had just happened. And so, you know, I'm like, oh, okay. You know, like that was like fresh news. Yeah. And like, what do we remember? The Alamo. I mean, like that was said all the time, like it was a religious mantra. We remember the damn Alamo. And everybody knows the whole story, but like Texas history was like, if you didn't pass Texas history, you couldn't graduate, but you could fail regular history, like world history.
Because that's not important. Just Texas.
Yeah. American history, who cares? Yeah. But like, yeah, Texas history was like, you better know the Texas Constitution and you have to have it. And so that was like I know the Texas Constitution way better than I do the American one.
That's hilarious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And everybody that grows up in Texas knows that at any moment we have the authority to secede legally and lawfully. Yeah. We will remind people of that. My family, I had heard that.
I had heard that actually, that like if something goes bad politically and the state starts succeeding, like Texas will be the first.
We've been ready. But like the American flag and the Texas flag can fly at the same height.
Oh, because really?
Yeah, because Texas is still considered by law sovereign.
What?
No, seriously. We are the Republic of Texas.
Really?
So our flag, yes.
Damn. So, see, I didn't do good in American history.
Well, they don't want to talk about Texas.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
But yeah. Well, it's because we never officially like joined. It was stipulated.
Yeah.
And so we said we'll join, but we keep our sovereignty. We're still our own republic. So like the whole United States can do whatever the hell they want, but we're
Yeah.
kind of gonna do our thing. So that was like in the last 5 years. It was like there was a lot popping off here, obviously because of the border and what was happening, and
Oh
then
yeah.
it's like you had those fights breaking out because Texas Rangers were literally having standoffs with National Guard, like
My
Department of
God.
Homeland Security. But Texas Rangers actually have the authority. They supersede whatever was sent here from Washington.
Damn.
And like, yeah, like a Texas Ranger is the only law enforcement agency that can cross not only state lines to get your ass, but they can also go into Canada, Mexico, anywhere they can go anywhere. They have
Oh my
total
God.
jurisdiction. It's a crazy thing, but see, again, we know like our Texas laws. It's a whole thing.
Wow.
Anyway, that'll be its own
Anyway.
funny thing that we can put on TikTok.
Yeah.
But Georgia's interesting too in the same kind of. The South is fascinating. There's some interesting people in the South. Interesting things about it, but very different from the North. And definitely from the Midwest. We don't talk about the Midwest. But we like your corn. Okay. We like your corn and your wheat. Yes. So today's topic, although that was fun. I like talking about that. It's fun.
You love talking about Texas. I know you do.
It's fascinating.
But yeah.
But of course, a Texan would say that.
Yeah.
So, But we are going to. Oh, what a great lead in.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about narcissism.
Speaking of people from Texas, let's talk about narcissism because, yeah.
Well, actually,
no, it's
Jordan,
fine.
Jordan
Pride
Peterson.
and, yeah, good.
Yes, pride.
Pride and narcissism is different. It's different. You can have pride in Texas and not be, it's fine. But anyway, yeah. What are you saying?
Everybody's a little narcissistic, but you have to be like, I think everybody, well, it's not narcissism. It's like they say, like there's a healthy narcissism because if you don't have any ego at all, you're just
exactly
on,
Yeah.
So
yeah, ego
is
very
what
important.
saves your life. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So this topic, Jamie and I were like for months. We're like, wait, yeah, we got to do that. Oh my God, I have so many things to say, but yes, it's really like we say it's about narcissism, but it's really, it is, but it's all the things like underneath that little umbrella too.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's what, like I think everyone, I mean, you look at like social media is a good barometer, right? But like people now understand certain clinical terms that really weren't talked about before. And I've noticed that like, it's like people will like real average, not thinking out of the box kind of people really kind of like have paid attention to that. Like, what is narcissism? How do you deal with it? Whatever. And so that makes me think there must be more of it now.
Yeah.
Or at least more of something that looks like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and we both had experiences. I mean, it's entertainment industry. Like you're going to meet, I mean.
Oh my God.
But you know what? At least with entertainment industry, and you probably agree with this, you see it coming with them. That's more grandiose, like blah, blah, blah. It's straightforward like it's the narcissism that I'll kick it off like this that really blows my mind is the narcissism that's creeping in just like really like prestigious organizations like healthcare or school, like education, whatever, or just middle management at some schmucky like place. And you're like, really? It's there too? Like, and it's kind of worse because that's like, they're not just entertainers. They're like actually affecting like the community.
Yeah.
So, anyway, but I was going to ask a question to kick it off to you. Like,
okay.
All right. Can you remember like a specific time period, let's say in the last decade? We'll do a big swath of like time here where you can kind of pinpoint like things kind of got like you started paying attention to like that's different. Like people started behaving a little differently than what you remember, like just in your life growing up.
Well, I mean, anything post-COVID is just...
Well, that's wacky town.
That whole
Yeah.
year, like, I mean, I don't know if you believe in timeline shifts or not, but like, I feel like anything pre is like not even on the same timeline. So that's something different. But I think for me, like my great awakening to everyone and their bullcrap was probably 2017, was an energy that, because I always knew that it wasn't right, like what people were doing, what they were saying, the people I was surrounded with. I was like, oh, well, whatever, what am I going to do, kind of thing. But there was a turning point for me, and it was 2017 when I was like, I can't do this anymore. I would rather die. Was yours the same year? Yeah. I was like, I would rather die than to continue being around this. Like, it's so toxic. Like, it was really... Yeah. And I did. I was like, to the point where I was like, if you want to kill me, just go ahead and kill me. I don't care. I have to get out of here.
It's really interesting. That was a pivotal year for me. Gosh, that was such a big year. But so, yeah, I've spent an inordinate amount of time thinking about how did we arrive here, right? And the thing is like, and I know I overanalyze everything, but it's good because I try to like gather as much info and philosophical ideas as I can and kind of see if anyone else is saying it,
Yeah.
or people I respect are thinking that or feeling that, from all walks of life, right? But I would say, I think beginning in 2017, we were seeing the culmination of something that began maybe 5 years prior to that, slowly.
Yeah.
And so I think by 2017, it started to kind of solidify. And then, so whatever the kind of cognitive programming or whatever it was that started like during like maybe I'm being like conservative here, 5 years before 2017, right? Like really though, like around 2012.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just going to say 2012 was another big year for me.
Me too. Huge.
Yeah.
And there was a shift in 2012 for sure.
Yeah.
I think that was the year where everything started kind of like, it's like Edgar Casey talks about there's time, there's half time, and then there's time and a half, where it's like everything started accelerating.
Yeah.
Like super fast. And because I mean, I blink and I'm like, what the heck? What year is it? I mean, it blows my mind, dude.
Yeah.
Like 2017 does not seem like that was as long ago as it was. You know? And you're like, what? I mean, that freaks me out. But yeah. But I think there was a culmination of things, and I started picking up on stuff that I'm like, that's weird. Humans haven't done that before. Like that's a weird thing. And I recently wrote a Substack, which I'm not trying to do like a shameless plug here, but
go ahead.
I do have a
podcast. Do what you want.
It's yours too. So, but we like this was like one of those things I just kind of had to get out.
Yeah.
But it's what we're talking about here. It's like, how did we build to this? Because I do believe we built to it. And I think technology had a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And then the generation that only has known technology.
I know, wild.
It is. And they were kind of like coming into of age during 2017, and then now are fully adults, you know, like they're doing their thing. But like that whole time period there was like, I mean, I don't think that we've been there before, because we've known technology, but we didn't, I mean, it wasn't like the pivotal thing of like society was, you know, being connected to the whole world.
Yeah.
Right. And like, what does that do to someone?
Yeah.
You know, if like that's all you've ever known.
Yeah.
And I'll sidebar, I'll say something in a minute, but I do believe that when I first started going, on the narcissism thing, was when I started to actually kind of get scared about it, was around 2017, when I was like,
yeah,
you know? And it really started with like the selfie thing.
That's what I was going
like,
to say. Yep, that part.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting. Okay, so you saw that too.
What I was going to say real quick is that I saw that part of technology just enhance what the person already is. So if you're already kind of egotistical and or egotistic and narcissist, whatever, because I had people in my life that were like that, you needed those likes and those follows because you're very down on yourself. So it was a picture every day of anything just to get someone to notice you, to comment on you. I know some girls who are just like selfie every day and then just beautiful. And there was a whole this thing and all that stuff like that. I saw so like my friends, I had half friends who were like really into that. And I was like, I didn't think she was that kind of person, but I guess she is. And then like Instagram was like, you know, ass and titties everywhere. And I'm like,
yoga pants everywhere.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The ones that are right up the crack. But like, there's nothing wrong with feeling good about yourself, but there is something wrong when you need other people to tell you look good. So I saw that. Well, there was some people who were doing it because they had low self-esteem, honestly, and they needed the likes and the comments. Or there were people who, like the person that I was married to, was it to be like, I know I'm great. Look at me. Look at me. I am fabulous. I'm the greatest person in the world. I don't care if I have likes or not. I just want y'all to see it, because like that high level of like narcissism. But then I also saw technology being used because during 2017 is when I had my divorce, because I saw what he was doing. And I was like, I can't with you. Like, I actually can't anymore. And I turned to technology to find YouTube videos about women who were in narcissistic marriages and how did they get out, because I wanted to leave, but I didn't know how, because you're terrified, you know, you're scared. And watching these videos, I mean, I'm sure I could have done it, you know, without it, but I really don't think I could have gotten through it without just seeing these women say, my husband did this and this and this and this. And I'm like, they all do the same thing. Like that was crazy to me. And it really made me feel not alone and really helped me get out of that situation. So technology is, it's whoever has it. It's good or bad, whichever way, you know.
It's like the gun debate.
Yeah.
It's like, no, the gun in and of itself is not bad.
Exactly.
Whoever's wielding it with their intention is what causes the gun to be unsafe.
Yeah.
You know, whatever the tool is, I can use a hammer to knock somebody out and like bludgeon them, or I can build a home.
Right.
You know, so you're right. And that I think, I mean, I give this a lot of thought, what you're talking about, because there are so many resources out there now that were not available or easily available like when I was growing up at all.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to go to like a, you know, find like where there was like a group meeting and like sit around with people that, you know, like you'd have to like
physically go there.
Yeah. And so that made it really difficult, because it was like, well, there's no anonymity, you know, to like trying to cope with something, because it's like, you know, you couldn't do it on the sly,
right,
to try to figure something out about like, what am I in, what's this, because we both share the thing with like, I mean, and he'll see this because he's like very well known. I haven't spoken to him in, I don't know, over 20 years, but well over 20 years. But he is in the entertainment industry, specifically voiceover. I was married to him when I was very young, and he was older than me, like significantly older than me. And everything about him was like classic, I mean, textbook narcissism. Textbook. But here's the deal. His whole family was that way. They were all Ivy League super geniuses, all of them, you know. So I was very much frowned upon, like, as being like, you know, oh, some dumbass from Texas, you know, whatever. And I did not have access to an education like that. Thank God, I say now.
Yeah.
I mean, he was like prodigious. Like, he was playing in like symphony orchestras when he was like super young. He played, I mean, he would be the first to tell you he played, you know, according to the Guinness Book of World Records, you know. And, but like, I will not take away from one thing. He was and is, maybe not now, I don't know, but the most talented voiceover artist probably that I've ever seen, maybe with the exception of a couple of people that I can't think of their name right now, but everybody would know their voice. But like incredibly talented at mimicry. Okay. I mean, could match Kate. Now I'm great at mimicry too, but not, I will enhance certain things to make something super funny.
Yeah.
Like he was like a robot. I mean, he was incredible, but he was also an incredible musician. And like with symphony orchestra, like, and played French horn and all this stuff, like, but like next level. He was, I mean, he's brilliant, no question about it, but he would be the first person to tell you that. And but also incredibly impulsive, addicted to porn, you know, all of that. And yeah, and just like temper tantrums that you like, if you ever see a narcissist throw a temper tantrum, like a real narcissist throw a temper tantrum,
it's toddler like. It's wild.
Honestly, it's really, I mean, those of you out there, I don't know if you've ever seen it, and God forbid you do, but I mean, it's really like a 2-year-old, like,
yeah,
it's that.
Yeah.
It is next. They are off the rails. Like, it's not like, oh, here's some anger. It's like, is that a 40-year-old laying down on the ground and pounding their fist on the pavement?
Literally doing
I saw it.
Yeah, same.
I saw it.
Girl. And were you the one that was next to him going, it's okay, honey, it's okay. Do you need anything? What can I do? What's wrong? It's okay. Everything will be worked out. Because I was.
Actually, I was inside of a puppet house. I was at Christmas time in the most well-known location for Santa Claus visits ever, like famous for it. And we did a really great Jim Henson style show. It was very famous, whatever. And we're inside of this tiny house, me and 3 other puppeteers who, if they see this, everybody still laughs about it. But he, like, I was trying to get divorced from him, but he found me and he went on the stage. There's thousands of kids waiting for a show. I'm the toy maker, who's like this very like Jim Henson-y like guy, like you know, guy. Looks like Albert Einstein, and this whole thing. And there's, I mean, just families and kids and kids and kids and kids and kids. I mean, just like a sea of. He gets on the stage, starts the thing, and I'm like, dude, and then one of the puppeteers who I'm still good friends with was like, Melodee, look outside the puppet window. And then we're watching a grown-ass man like pounding his fist into the floor. And then he realizes that there's a sea of 1,000 people behind him. And he turns around and he goes, stop looking at me! Stop looking at me!
To them? To the kids?
To like a sea of people, yes. And because he like realized like he was in the middle of one of these, and then it was like, your status just dropped, bro. Like you just lowered your status in like this world because you like, they like to appear like they're really something like hot shit, right?
Yeah.
But like you just he took his shirt off and pounded his fist like like a 2-year-old, like a child. And anyway, then the classic entertainers, the clock, like we did shows every hour on the hour. And this guy Raymond was so funny, dude. Oh my God. Brilliant too. But anyway, like the clock goes into it's like, oh, it's noon. And so we have to start the music, and he goes, well, it's showtime.
Show must go on. So sorry.
So it's like ding ding, Merry Christmas, and like this whole thing. And then like there's the mall cops like going and like taking, like quarantining this crazy guy, like taking him away. Oh my God. And we were dead. We were laughing so hard. Like, we were dead. We still died today thinking about it. But that kind of temper tantrum, like if you if you see it, you go, well, there's no going back after you've seen that. Right? Like in public in that way. Like when it's outed in front of everybody, you're going to be the real fool if you were to take that person back. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I had seen the temper tantrums before in private, and I would try to de-escalate it and be like, first of all, I never knew what they were about. Like, it would be like something completely stupid and had no bearing on anything. And then but that would get blown out of proportion. And, but it was bad. And I will tell you this, and I'm sure you went, I was physically ill through that whole time. I could show the audience pictures of me during that time period and like how it started and then how it's going. And it was like, I looked like The Walking Dead. Dark circles, sunken. My stomach, I had panic attacks regularly. My stomach, I had stomach ulcers, vertigo.
Yeah. Same. Yeah.
My spirit was like, Yeah.
Like, I had ulcers and vertigo too. That's interesting.
So painful.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, it is. And because it's war. It's constant trauma. It's constant stress. And eventually it's like you have like an adrenal blowout. Like you can't like continue to be in that for long. If you ever see people who've really just given up and they're like resigned themselves to the fact that this is just their life.
Yeah.
There's nothing, there's no chi energy. There's no, there's no nothing. They're not going to go pursue anything.
Yeah.
They're dead.
I had gotten to that point because I was with him for 15 years.
Oh my God. I can't even imagine.
And I had gotten to that point where I was so desensitized that like nothing fazed me anymore. Like if something bad happened, I was like, okay, like I didn't care. Like I'm saying like I wanted to die. Like I would never like kill myself because I know that's like, I've had lots of friends do that. It's very sensitive, but
you might have had you stayed. You might have.
I would have died, but not by my own hands, if you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
So, but my turning point was actually so let me back up a little bit. In 2012, I really started getting to that point of being enlightened more because stuff started coming out, like more sources were more available. And my whole life, I had always been very connected and psychic and could see ghosts and read people's auras and their minds, all this stuff. But of course, being in the South, it was like, you're going to hell. Don't do that. Don't talk about it. So I kept it under wraps, and I just it was something I did on the side, didn't really tell anybody about. But then I read a book that literally changed my life, which was Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. That trilogy was yours, that book?
Yeah, I was given that book as a gift, and I went,
yeah,
and everything changed. That was the beginning of my super quest for knowledge. It was the beginning of it.
Someone gave me the book, and it was all three. The first one, second one, third one in one big book. It was like 780 something pages, I remember. And I read it in like 3 days because I couldn't put it down. And I remember tears hitting the page because what he was saying is stuff that I have thought since I've been on this earth. I remember being a kid and had these thoughts when I was in church, and I was like, why is he saying that? Like, what? That's not right. So, and I was like, oh, I'm crazy. And then I read this book and was like, my God, these are the thoughts I've never said out loud. And this feels right. And I read that book in probably 2006 or 7. And I started being like, man, I'm going to like try to meditate, be out in the sun. I'm not going to eat beef or pork anymore. I was a pescatarian for a while. And then I had to like reintroduce turkey and chicken because I just wasn't getting enough protein. But like I started living that way on my own. And of course, my ex, who's like, you know, eating steak and is like, oh, what's wrong with you? You don't eat this. And like putting the blood in my face, that kind of crap. Which I don't care. Eat what you want. It's your stomach. It's my stomach. Like, it's not. But who would do that to their spouse? You know what I mean? But anyway, and then so I really started getting into it. And then I remember in 2012, it was just like a upgrade, I had a little bit more power, kind of. And I started coming out of like me being so like dead to where it's like, well, this is my life and I don't care anymore. I started coming out of it. And then in 2015, my grandmother died. Oh. And she raised me because my real mom split when I was a baby. And she half raised me with my dad and my stepmom, but I was with her all the time. And she was miserable her whole life. She hated her life. She never got what she wanted. She died very bitter and angry. Oh. And I remember looking at her on her deathbed and being like, oh my God, I do not want that to be me. I don't want to be 83 years old and have lived a crappy life that I hated and bitter and miserable. I was like, I can't, like, that cannot be me. And that's when I was like, I've got to start thinking of a way to get out of here. And then early 2017 is when I actually left. So it was steps, you know, but it was.
It's so weird, Jamie. I got to just interrupt you. It's so weird because everything, if my, like, let's say my sister, if my sister heard you talking and saying that story, she would assume you were reading something that I wrote about my life during that, not that year, not the years that you're talking about, but like, you know, when I was going
like the same situations in that kind of order, sort of.
But down to like, I mean, just also, everything and how I felt and like, you know, and now they were in a great relationship, my pop and my grandma, but she was with a total psychopath before she met my pop, my granddad. Okay. And this was, I mean, when I say this was a long time ago, folks, this was a long time ago. She was born November 11th, 1911.
Oh my gosh. Cool birthday.
See? Yeah, well, she's the reason I got like I am here because of her.
Yeah.
Yeah, and 11 is like a whole thing, but yeah, she's she was incredible. But anyway, but yes, I know what you mean. Like I don't think that she ever fully, because of her first relationship, and then like that was long before, you know, I mean, she was married to my pop for like 65 years. I mean, you know, so, but like, this was the one before. And, the stuff she went through, like during that era, but I don't know if she really ever was I don't know if she ever fully allowed herself to be happy.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like she was very wise and she was very centered and whatever, but like, I mean, she'd play around, but there was always this kind of like sadness there behind her eyes. Like, you know, because she was a magnificent. And when I say that, I don't mean like, oh, she played guitar. I'm talking like on another level. She was known. Like these old roadies that used to tour with like Leonard Skinner and everything said, her name was Ida Willibell. But they'd say Miss Ida Willibell is the best guitar player they've ever heard, living or dead.
Oh my gosh!
I have records, like actual records, and like recordings of her.
Oh, cool.
She didn't read. Yeah, she didn't read music. She found her guitar on a train track, like in the 1920s. And she'd start playing at all the competitions at the fairs and stuff like that, and she'd win every single one of them. And her nickname was Tiny. And but she didn't know anything. She stringed it the way it sounded good to her, so nobody understood her method. And then she would pop it like a Spanish, like flamenco style.
Yeah.
No, I mean, this is somebody with that picked cotton and was like no education at all. And when I say like, I mean, her fingers were like lightning, but then she could hear something once and not only nail it, but like nail the whole song and then do it better.
Oh my
So
God.
like,
wow.
Yeah. So, but that was like, we always wanted her to play, but it's like, that thing of like unrequited dreams or, something like that. So
Yeah.
it's like, I don't think she
Yeah.
wanted fame, but I think that she knew that like, it's like, oh, I've got this amazing thing I can do.
Yeah. She should have been recognized for it.
And she is still to this day, like by people in the, everybody will still talk about it, but like, it's like, and she changed my life with it for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It was some of my best memories ever. But I think that narcissism, like if you've been in a narcissistic abusive relationship, I think if you don't get help, like you're talking about, and resources and go out and do that, I think that it really permanently scars you on a level that you may not even recognize while you're alive.
Yeah.
I just, especially for women back then.
Well, and not even like, so, I've had some health issues recently, which I was diagnosed with like colitis and gastritis, and they're like, here's how you get it. It was like, one, eating like red meat, drinking alcohol, or drinking caffeine. I don't do any of that. I don't like coffee. I just drink water. That's it. I don't eat red meat. The other one was stress. And then the other one was like eating too many spicy foods and stuff. And I'm a wuss. We've talked about this on another podcast, I think, about how like I cannot handle spicy stuff and you love it, which that's like the only difference I've ever had between the two of us. Like we're like the same person, except for that. You like spicy. Of course, you're from Texas. I can't handle any of it. But anyway. Yeah. So then I saw this TikTok video about this thing about colitis. And basically, it's these like cauliflower looking things that clamp onto the side of your like intestines and colon when you're in fight or flight. And it's kind of like to because your whole body, when that happens, when you have an anxiety attack or you're just like that, you tense up a little bit, and and then when anything happens, and I can't handle now, like I'm very jumpy. Like if you were to come up and be like, boo, I'd be like, ah, because I've had to walk on eggshells my whole life because abuse when I was a kid, married for 15 years to another abuser. Like I was like abused until I was 35. So a constant like this, and I still kind of have that a little bit. I don't like to be touched. I thank God COVID happened. You can't shake hands with people anymore. I was like, thank you God. Don't touch me because it freaks me out. But anyway, my adrenal system is on high all the time. Right. So if anything happens, if something traumatic happens or I get stressed or anything, I always have noticed that like, that'll happen. And then like 2 days later is when I get the pain and all this stuff. And it's awful. And that's whenever you are like, oh, okay, I'm safe. I'm cool. And I go back to being cool. Those things release and come out and it's painful, and I was like, oh my God, get out of here. Because someone explained it like that. And I was like, that makes so much sense because I'm like, how come like something happens, but I don't get that nervous stomach until like 2 days later. So anyway, like, even though I've gotten out of that and I know in my brain I'm okay, like I'm fine. Like my new husband isn't going to do anything to me. I can take care of myself. I've got this, I've got that. I'm pretty good on most day. Your brain knowing that is so different than your body knowing that. And I have had to learn for my health's sake to speak to my body and to touch my stomach, upper and lower, and say, you're safe, we're safe, we're okay, you're safe, shh, you're safe, like a baby is in there, and talk to it and tell it it's safe. And so far it's been helping. But just to talk about...
People will roll their eyes right now hearing that, but you should not. Because in every, let's talk esoteric schools, and Edgar Cayce, father of holistic medicine, okay? every single thing is about, okay, mind is the builder, right? Like it starts in the spirit, like your etheric, your spirit is damaged, your soul hurts because of something that's traumatic that's happened, right? And then your mind, how does the mind have to process that in order to cope? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which then it builds something. And the physical body and the material, like existence, like whatever that, but your physical body is the result of what the mind has built. So illness or dis-ease, being ill of
Dis-ease.
ease.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Attunement is at one mint, right? Like if you're attuned, you're at one with the mind, the spirit, source. Okay. And then discordance is chord. This is where really where these root words come from. The discordance, like that, you know, is quite literally began, that word in its root form in the Latin was your silver cord being disengaged.
Oh, I didn't know that one.
Yes. And yeah, etymology, like get me on that. I mean, I love it. But yeah, that because you're like, these words are so, they've got this thing to them, you know, like what is that?
Yeah.
And you know, it's got such a, and across like multiple languages, they're all kind of similar. And so, but yes, that manifestation like in the body. And like, so when you said, so when Jamie said just now, audience, when Jamie said that she talks to herself like that, like I can feel eye rolling happening with people like, oh, come on. No, no, no. Oh, no, no.
Yeah.
Because every healer, mystic, incredible, like mind, even down to the Greek, you know, Hermetic literature talks about the organs, every single organ within the human body has got its own consciousness to it. The stomach, it has its own consciousness. You know, yes, it's all part of one, but think about like the whole universe. Like we're all on the planet, but we're all one, but we're all connected to that, to that, to that, to that. It's like, you know, it's like the dolls, like, you know, the little kuklas, the Russian dolls that are like, you know, but that's
the micro
universe.
and the macro. It's all,
As above, so below.
Yeah.
All of those things. And so your stomach really can get damaged. And I've seen it in the animal kingdom because that's like my world of like, you know, helping. I really understand like what happens to animals if they're injured or something like that, or what I can just see it coming off of them. But like it begins in the etheric, something traumatic, and then it goes down, and how it manifests in the body is really amazing. And how do you undo that? And so Jamie's been on this process of trying to like undo that, because once you figure out the correlation of like, wait a minute, what's this like common denominator thing that happens every time I feel like crap? And it may sound like easy to do. It's not. It's like, because we are so geared in the West, especially, to be logical about everything and to be like, that's not that related to that. You know, like that's not, I don't feel a certain way. I'm fine. You know, but it's like, you don't know what your subconscious is literally quarantining away from your conscious mind about that situation or about that place that you're going to every day.
Yeah.
You know,
I heard someone describe it. Well, I heard someone describe it as PTSD for your immune system. And because I heard this guy was talking about how he had a really, really bad breakup with this chick and he was fine. But every time she texted him later, like, oh, hey, I left this at your house, or, oh, hey, like whatever, like months later, he would see his phone and be like, oh, and he said straight to the bathroom. And then he started thinking, was like, I know I'm okay. She's not here. She's not going to come get me. But just by looking at the phone, it's immediate. And I when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, like I know in my brain, I'm okay. You know, the dumpster fire's behind me. And I'm like, it's fine. Everything's fine. But your body has been like this for so long that your body is in charge of keeping you safe. And it's doing its job. But you've really got to, that's where that ego comes in, like we were talking about. Like there is a healthy ego that you have to have enough to be like, block, that's making my stomach upset. You got to get out of here. And people who are, this happens to a lot of psychic people, because most psychic people are light workers, whatever you want to call these people, are, that's what I'm looking, empathic. Is that the right word? Empaths.
Yep.
So for me, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings because I can feel people's feelings. So if I'm standing in front of someone, I can feel this person's having a bad day. Like they can walk up and I'm like, oh, this person's having a bad day, or this person's in a good mood. And I can usually change someone's mood. It's real. I like play with that all the time. I'm like, I bet by the time I'm done talking to this person, they'll be in a good mood. And I do that. I've been doing that forever. But if I hurt someone's feelings and I feel that hurt, I take that on. So I have always been a people pleaser. I want people to be happy. I want everyone in this world to be happy. If I'm here as a second wave volunteer, that's my job, is to be an antenna and make everybody happy. So it's against my original nature to make people unhappy. So that's why I stayed in an abusive relationship. That's why I have friends, because they're like, hey, I need you. And I'm like, well, it's 3:00 in the morning, but I don't want to hurt your feelings, so I'll do it. Having to learn to say no sucks. As a people person, it sucks. But when you start seeing like what it's doing to your body and health wise, you have to reprogram yourself. And it sucks. I mean, I'm going through that right now and it sucks. And one of the things I think about a lot is you telling me about Edgar Casey, how he wanted to help people so bad, but it killed him. It killed him. And I think about that all the time. I'm like, learn from these lessons. Like, sometimes you have to say no. Sometimes you have to put your foot down, and that's difficult sometimes, you know?
Yeah, it really is, especially in cases like that where you have this tremendous gift, right? And you're like, well, then what else is my life for other than to try to help people?
Yeah.
But, you know, he was warned. I mean, quite literally, there was like sessions of his where, you know, he's in an unconscious state, but he was doing a health reading, and like literally, and I know whatever, but Archangel Michael, and he introduced himself as such, like shattering like windows, doing this, and pow, like blowing.
Wow.
And him saying like, you know, like reprimanding all of the founding members of the ARE, saying like, you are to be the guardians of this man. Do not keep piling on stuff like essentially to his plate, because his life can go on for an extended period of time. If he continues at the rate that he is doing now, it will end in 3 years or 2 years or whatever was said.
Yeah.
And he cut back for a minute, but then he went right back to it. And he was aware of that warning. And he died, you know. So you know, it was like there was two paths there. And it's really true, like you know, that I know, like when I was a kid, I wanted everyone to have a great time. I wanted everyone to laugh. I wanted, you know, all that too. I wanted people to be happy and to, you know, like me and I like them and blah, blah, blah. And I also think that there's another thing with people who are intuitive, is that so let's say that there's a monster, right? Like really, like say your ex, or, you know, my first husband, like all that, or some psycho that I've known that I was never in a relationship with, but was just friends with, or friends, you know, whatever, like I knew them. But you can see past that manifestation of who they are in this life here. So it's like you're seeing like, oh, but you're not really like that. Like you'll see the wounds in there that created this broken being, right? And I mean, I like had like this very strange feeling when I was growing up, where I was like, and I would say to my grandma and stuff, I was like, why do I understand everyone? I would say that.
Wow.
And she'd go, what? She's like, well, what do you mean? She's like, I mean, even the worst people, I can just like, I know, like, it's just a couple of bad mistakes, and then it like led him there. And so I would be able to see it, and then I would feel like this compassion.
Yeah.
Like, God, oh, that's not the way you wanted that to turn out, you know? And that was a great thing to have that ability, but it also was awful, because you cannot be in this existence in this material world and last for very long at all if you're like that. You just can't.
Yeah.
And so that pushback has that power, that same power that is generated by being that tremendous love and that tremendous like thing of being able to alchemize somebody's mood into being into a good mood. You have to also harness that to push, like force, like in Star Wars, like it's force pull or push.
Yeah.
But it's the same energy, but I have come to, like, I would say 50-50. I have zero problem with confrontation anymore. Like, none. Because if I'm going to approach, if you're going to get a confrontation from me, listen, you deserve whatever I'm about to say. Because trust, I have already put the benefit of the doubt thing in 111 bajillion 5 different ways to go, like, to give you the benefit of the doubt. And if I still come up short, so, like, and that is not for me. That is like, let me help you out, because I know everybody has a problem confronting and really, like, dealing with something. And it's like, that person is going to wreck the lives like dominoes of so many people if they are not called to the carpet now, here and now. And if I will gladly do it, and I watch that kind of suffering that those people can cause. Now, I know they're suffering too on some level.
Yeah.
But they have also free will, and they have chosen to be that way. Yeah. They have, at some point, they go, they're getting a payoff from it. And so they're getting like, I know it's wrong, and so many times of going, I know it's wrong, or I know that's not right. Then that voice is not there anymore. Yeah. And then they're just full steam ahead, just obliterating everybody in their path.
Yeah. But that's hard when it's family, like close family. That's the that's the worst. And Melodee taught me how to do cord cutting, which I wasn't fully aware of, and I think that that's helped as well. And so, maybe we'll do a video about that someday, or you can just do a little short video to tell people how to do that, because things like that really help. And if anybody's watching this who has been involved in a narcissistic relationship and is still seeing, if they haven't got out, first of all, just get out. Like, life's too short. If they have got out, but they still have this PTSD, kind of, like, there's things to do that's not medicine, that's not even therapy. There's, on the esoteric level, things you can do to get rid of that. And it's really been the only thing that's helped me. That, and now I'm on like an alkaline diet, which has been so good for my stomach. I haven't, like, it's amazing when I'm done eating, like, I'm not feeling pain. Like, I don't have heartburn, I don't have pain. And I remember when I told you, I was like, well, I'm on an alkaline diet now. And you were like, oh, Edgar Cayce said that that's like the way to heal, like, everything. It's, I mean, I don't want to be on it for the rest of my life because it's kind of bland and sucks. But if it makes me not be in pain, I'm like, okay, I'll do it.
Well, I think you're in the process of getting your body alkaline, right? So once it has, like, you've done that, then, it's like, you don't want to go too far, because too far alkaline is terrible for anybody.
Yeah. Like, if you were there's got to be a balance, sure. Yeah.
But right now, what you're doing is healing it by doing that. And then, like, the Edgar Cayce, if you go on the ARE website, like, the Association for Research and Enlightenment in Virginia Beach, it's the Edgar Cayce Foundation. They have all the health readings, all that stuff on there. But yes, so Edgar Cayce's food pyramid, technically, is now, like, everything that is coming out, like RFK Jr. is, like, talking about, like, we got to do this and this, and this is anti-cancer. And because, come on, I don't care, whatever. If you're triggered by me saying RFK Jr., then you wouldn't have got this far in the podcast anyway. But it's like that, like, he's talking about the exact same things that Edgar Cayce had already said, like that food pyramid, which I really always lived by, like, in, the colors of certain foods really matter too. Like there's certain vegetables that go with like if you got a gallbladder issue, eating yellow foods really help with that. Well, what color is the gallbladder's yellow?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's really, oh man, it's so fascinating. But I really went off, like, I really was like, in my like early 20s, like 21, I was like, I have to heal myself. I have to, like, I'm dying. I know that, like, and I mean, it was bad. And acupuncture really like pushed it over the edge in a good way. But then it was maintenance after that. And I had to figure out how to, because I lived in fear of that stomach burning and that panic attack thing. I lived in fear of that coming back I mean, it was like probably 5 years that I was like, okay, I haven't had an episode in 5 years. Am I cool? Because it was like, what is hell like? That it was never being able to eat anything.
Yeah.
I mean, and like, oh my God, it was awful.
Yeah.
It was awful. And it was stress and trauma and everything. And there was all this trauma all at once too. It was like my grandmother and my grandfather died the same year. I mean, it was like bam, bam, bam. All this like change was happening. The world was changing. Like, it was crazy. And it's just, I mean, this is like, 1998 was like the big one. That was the year that all that crap happened to me. But like, oh my gosh, it was like the beginning too, though, in a weird way,
Yeah.
of like that journey forward. But yeah, the cord cutting thing is huge, and I believe that it's huge too for I would say like the majority of the reason why that's huge, because it really helped me when I first learned about it, which, I mean, it changed a lot in my life, like just knowing that. But I think that's kind of the key to it, is that intention of, I am, all caps, right? Intentionally saying, I'm done with this. Because our free will is so magnetic and so powerful. If we only knew how powerful it was. I mean, what we accept for ourselves passively it's like, you're authorizing it. You're authorizing self-abuse if you're not, you know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, we've got family members we've got to go deal with. And it's, but once I understood that there's a toolbox that on a spiritual level that I can do, and of course the skeptic in me goes, okay, let's just say that it's all BS, right? Let's just say that, like, oh, that doesn't really, you're just doing this, but it works, right? So I know that it works. I feel that it works. It's obviously changing something. So what if, let's say that all of it's crap and it's like woo woo, it doesn't even, whatever, which I don't believe. I know it works, but I'm just saying, devil's advocate here. Then if it works, provable results, like I'm not like sick for 2 days afterwards or something like that because I had to walk back to the lion's den. So then what is it? If I was to be completely just like scientifically minded or, whatever, logical about it, it's my intention. It's me sending a signal to me saying, this is what we're not going to accept. None of that's going to go within. I'm done with the tactics, and the game playing will not work on me. Like, and I'm cutting whatever y'all are trying to put on me. It's not going to stick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's that. So even if it's just that, and you have to think of it in that way because it's too crazy to think of it in another way, that's okay.
Yeah. No.
You know? It's a practice, right? And so, and it really was helpful. I had never really understood that term, and then it was kind of brought to my attention by a very well-known healer and psychic and comedian too. And I was like, what is this? And I kind of felt silly doing it at first, and then but it radically changed my life, because it also forces you to pay attention.
Yeah. And to notice, that's another thing, being with a narcissist for so long, like, there's so many terms that have come out later from like via the internet, because when I was younger and married, like, I mean, narcissism has been around for a long time, but it wasn't easily thrown around like it is now. But like gaslighting or like red flags or like grooming, all these terms have like kind of came out like right when I was getting divorced or after. And I'm like, why didn't someone tell me this? Because you go from like, you know, your little village that you grow up in, your little town, your community, and you have your friends. You don't really get outside much unless you actually travel, which being in the circus was great for me to just get out and meet other people and see how life is out there. But then the internet really, really helped with videos of people having these terms and helping explain it, because now it's our job to tell younger people. Like I've got, you know, these nieces, I've got 4 nieces that are just now like, you know, in their 20s. And I got to be like, hey man, don't put up with this or that, or like, look out for this. Because nobody did that for us. But I had older people in my life, and it was like, well, we're going to go to so-and-so's house, and okay, we go to visit them, and you can tell like that is not a happy place or marriage, but like they just didn't get divorced. You know what I mean? Like older people, they just didn't get divorced. And it was like, they just hated each other. Like, I don't know if you had those relatives or those people that were friends of your parents or something, where they would talk to each other in such a way where you were like, damn. And now it was funny. It's kind of like, oh my God, it's kind of like, Red Fox and what's her name, on Sanford and Son.
Elizabeth.
God, no, no, not that was his wife. The other girl,
Elizabeth.
no, that was his wife.
Ugly?
What was her name? You know who I'm talking about. She was like in the church's chicken things. God, I cannot remember. Estelle? No, it's God, somebody's watching this and screaming it. But how they talk to each other, we watch it and we're like, it's funny because they're just cutting each other down. But like, you know, underneath you're like, they really hate each other. And it's like, why do you stay with that person? And I remember asking that, like, why are you still with them? And they're like, oh, well, you just don't get divorced. Where we come from, you don't get divorced. That's what I chose. And I made a promise to God, and by God, I have to stick with it. And you're like, oh, okay. And it was really like the promise to God. And that was what my ex put on me. He's like, I don't care if you like me or not. You gave a promise to God. You stood up in front of all your friends and family, in front of church, in front of God, and promised you would be with me through thick and thin. And if you don't keep your promise to God, then something bad is going to happen to you and you might go to hell. And that's what really got me. And I was like, oh God, yeah, like, I did make a promise.
I'm already in hell. No. I'm already in it.
But do you not look at yourself, like we're in our 40s now, do you not look at your 20-year-old self and just want to like strangle or just shake and be like, wake up? Like, I'm not the same person. Like you, like, I know you know me as kind of like a tougher chick, and I am now. And like, I don't really deal with confrontation because some people, I tell them right away, like, if you come work for me, like, here's the rules, don't mess it up. And my last 2 employees were like, we are terrified of you. And I'm like, what? I'm like, I'm the nicest person ever. And they're like, you're so sweet and nice, but I've seen it in your eyes when something doesn't go right. And they're like, we would hate for that to be unleashed. And I'm like, oh my God. Because last thing I want to be is like a narcissist too, but I do stand my ground. But if my 20-year-olds could see myself now, it would weep for joy. And if I could go back to my 20-year-old self and say the things I could say, like, it's just, I'm not the same person. Like, people who have known me my whole life are like, wow, you've really changed. People like you have known me post-divorce are like, I can't believe you were like that, like cowered down and all this kind of stuff. And you have said the same thing. You've said the same thing. Like I think you said the place that you work, like who you were when you started working there versus who you are now. That didn't you say like your employees are like, wow, Melodee's really changed, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. They, well, yeah. Because I was really going through something that was affecting my life at that time. And I'm not going to get fully into that here, but a lot of them met me at a low point of just like my whole world was turned upside down. I wasn't weak, but I was like, I just couldn't believe it. I just could not believe, like I stood my ground. That wasn't the case. That part I got.
You were betrayed, not abused, really, right? Would you say?
I mean, it ended in physical, like,
yeah,
terrible stuff. But that's how, literally, like, that happened, and then that was it, right? That didn't like continue, right? Like I was like, and scene.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I already had red lines that were, you know, like, okay, but I never expected any of it. It was just a freight train of, you know, and that was that was actually really like psychopathy. That is the catalyst of it. Really comes from uh, someone abusing certain drugs that change the chemical makeup of the brain to the point where, like, I mean, you can think of it spiritually. It is where there's like a portal that's opened up and everything's kind of pouring in, right? Not with me. I've never done drugs, but I'm saying, you know.
Yeah.
But my partner of 12 years, who we had never even gotten to like a fight or anything. I mean, it was like we were business partners too. Like we, you know, but I really didn't think I'd ever be with anyone else. I didn't think I would be, you know, it's like, this is it. This is my life. And like, you know, everything was cool. And then freight train. But he was living a double life really for like probably the 2 years prior to that happening. But I will say this, like he was younger than me, but he dealt with, like, the drugs were a symptom, something that he reached for that I had no idea about, because it was a cope. And I think men cope with things a lot differently than females do. But I think that he had been the recipient of tremendous psychological and emotional crap from his family. I saw it. I mean, I have to be careful what I say here, but I mean, some of his family are passed away now, so I can say something there.
Yeah.
But like, unbelievable story. Like, but like when you're steeped in that, and you know, I don't think that he had the tools to deal with it, even though like I never really understood. To me, it looked like he was fine. You know, everything's cool. But in retrospect, I go, you know, why would he have done that? Why would he have reached for those drugs? What was the thing? And it's like, he didn't feel powerful. He didn't feel empowered. And if your compass is off and you're not totally spiritually and emotionally and mentally attuned, and you've got low self-esteem and blah blah blah, something that takes you out of that makes you feel like you're powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, you want to talk about like a toxic relationship that you have with that drug, you know. And I think that's, I mean, this is over like 2.5 years now of reflecting and trying to understand what happened from an objective standpoint.
Yeah.
You know, but there's a lot of work there that is still not with, I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, there's still stuff that person's going to have to go through that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. Mm-hmm. Because the level of shame when you come out of that and you've healed and you're like, you know, and you were a monster to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's like, if that happens, because that's another thing too, that sometimes is a catalyst for them to get back on drugs, is that shame hits and they're like, oh, I can't face that. You know what I mean? So that's a fascinating thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Especially alcoholism. Oh my God. Like, we've all seen that with people who are alcoholics for sure. But yeah, I think, like, you know, the healing that, like, there's so many great resources with technology out there, like we were talking about, but like finding that coping mechanism or that way to like deal with it all. If you are, I mean, I love the fact that people know what gaslighting is. I really do.
Yeah.
Like, I love that, because that it's like, and really in the last 5 years, we've had like real-time examples of it, like, worldwide.
Yeah. And like the Mandela effect or whatever, or like all those things. It's like, it's yeah, that's so weird to me.
It is. But see, like, the part of me that's kind of come through the fire of my life goes like, okay, everything's digital now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like things can be manipulated.
Oh, yeah.
Is that a psychological warfare program to make us question ourselves and what we actually do remember?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, you know, because
Yeah.
people are like, oh, it's timeline, and they're all like, oh, it's oogity boogity. Like, it's like crazy, like mirror universe in Star Trek. Okay, I will say that there are some things that kind of feel like that, but probably like the Occam's razor of it is like the shortest distance between 2 points here is probably like there was a psychological operation with another one running underneath it
Sure.
with another one here.
Sure.
And it worked on a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like where I was going with the we're seeing more. It's like, are we seeing more narcissistic behavior, or are we more aware of it, or is that
Right.
both?
Yeah, I
And I
thought
think
about
it's
that
both.
too. Yeah. Is it because it's coming to light, or has it always been there, or is it being enhanced? I think it's a little bit of everything. I think the people who are narcissistic, they're putting it out there more via social media.
Mm-hmm.
And then the people who aren't, who can see it, because I can see it a mile away. I don't know about you, but like I can see it. Like somebody can literally say 2 or 3 words to me, and I'm like, okay, well, we're gonna make this quick because I can see right through you and who you are. It's more aware because people, and it's the thing, like, is it technology and knowledge that we have at our fingertips to where we see it, or is it also, like I was talking about earlier, the light codes and stuff being downloaded from the sun or from wherever that is awakening people, because people are waking up. Even the most humdrum person is like noticing stuff, you know.
I think, oh man, I think this is such a multifaceted conversation
Very,
to
yeah,
have, because I do think it's all of the above.
it's all
And
the
I
above.
also think a shared trauma collectively also wakes you up real quick. But I was, not to reference my Substack again, but I have to, because again, I put like this stuff in there that I've really been thinking about, so I'll bring it out here. But 2 things, and I reference it in this. So like, I remember about 2016, 2015, 16, 17. Okay. I started seeing like this thing happening. So for those of you who don't know, like, I mean, yeah, Circus did all that, but also voiceover and all that crap for like years. I'm saying that for a reason. So that's like the fringe, right? Like all this stuff, like voiceover, children's television, you know, motion caption stuff, stunts, circus, yada, yada, yada. That's like, you're not like, you know, like stunt double work, all that crap. That's in the fringe of like, it's a very small world. Everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
It's hard to break into that because it's like, you know, it's just a strange thing. And everybody wants to break into it, you know, like it's that kind of deal. But like, okay. Okay, I swear I'm going to get it out. So comic book conventions, anime and comic book conventions. So everybody in that voiceover industry really liked to go and do those things, except this guy. I hated it. It dorked me out because even though I knew like the shows that I had voiced and video games and stuff were like super dope to everybody else, to me, I was like, I mean, whatever, dude. You know, like, I mean, it just wasn't, I wasn't, you know, it's like, yeah, it was a gig. It's cool.
Yeah, but let me say this real quick for people watching. I'm not going to say the name, but Mel was a voice actor for the biggest anime of all time. Would you agree?
Yeah,
that's the biggest anime of all time.
Base.
Huh?
Now we'll get that subscriber base.
No, I'm not going to say the name of it, but just think of the biggest anime franchise of all time. She was a voice actor in it. And so, I mean, just to put in perspective, like how cool something is and how she didn't give a damn. Like,
Still don't care.
Which is funny because my husband thinks it's amazing. He's like, oh my God, it's so cool.
I hate it every minute. And so
it's just funny to me.
I liked recording it, and I liked hanging out with like people I did it with, and you know, like we would have a ball, dude. I mean, it was great. There was more reels of us messing, like putting other words in the mouths of those characters than what we were supposed to.
But you didn't like go home and watch the episodes?
Never seen one.
That's crazy to me. Even I've seen some of the episodes. But
no,
yeah.
If it's on, I'm like, okay, out. I'm out. And then that was that show, but then there was like 5 other shows that became hits too. But then I love doing the video games because they gave me creative freedom to like really, I got to do some crazy stuff there. Or any kind of character I got to come up with on my own was amazing. I love that. But like, you know, that kind of thing. If I got to write it and like come up with it on my own, I liked it. But yeah, it was the people that were into it that turned me off of it. And I have a rebellion thing in me that I can't fight very. Like, I know what I felt about it, so I can't go along with it to make y'all feel good that you know, it's like, cool, thanks. There's people that do that really love, you know. My ex, by the way, the one I was talking about, also in that show, and also like the main character in that show.
Really?
And yeah. And is still rocking that. Like today is still like, perhaps you didn't realize that I'm, you know, still that. People get very disillusioned when they meet him. So yeah, there's a lot of Reddit boards there. But yeah. And again, I could totally put him on blast right now.
Yeah.
And put his name out there and whatever. But I'm not going to do it because he kind of wants that. So anyway, he doesn't care. He's just like, whatever, me. But yeah, he's a whole deal. Again, I haven't seen him or whatever in like 20 years. Like, we recorded all that. But yeah, so I was gonna say, I started like, I wouldn't go to those things. I was like, and because they dorked me out, and the people that really were into it that would come up, and there was a thing, I was kind of seeing it, and I was like, you know, and I just didn't like it.
What, like signing autographs and stuff, or you didn't like that, or what?
No, like if it was kids or whatever, like that's cool. But there's people who are crazy, who like will get into something that's like, that for whatever reason it clicked something in them, and they're like obsessed with it, and they're dressing like the thing they like in real life. You know, like nobody's putting a system of checks and balances on that. You know, circus fans, there's some of them like that too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know some real weird ones. Yeah. This makes me think of you remember that movie Galaxy Quest? When they're like at the table signing autographs, and these fans are like, do you remember in episode 52 and what's it? And they're like, what? What are you talking about?
So true story. I was on a panel and those kind of questions were coming. So like with the mic, like real awkward.
You're so mean. I'm dying. Okay.
Don't care.
Aw.
So anyway, but it would be like, holding your and no, we would all like die laughing afterwards. But like, I just like, yeah, I stopped being invited. Let's just say.
Oh my God.
No, because that guy would stand up and be like, actually, and you know, and it was like, I was wondering why you chose in this episode. It was all real weird to do this over here instead of possibly like, you know, yelling. It seems like your character had some emotion about this and not that. Okay, and so I was like, I don't write it. I don't know. They tell me, hey, we need it more like that, and I do that. Right, but how did you feel? I didn't feel a thing.
No wonder they didn't ask you to come back. You're supposed to
They're
milk
like, you
it,
didn't feel
Mel. You're
anything? I
supposed
was
to be
like, no,
like,
I don't
yeah.
feel any emotion.
Oh my
No,
God.
you're
so
they
funny.
wanted it to sound a certain way. It's originally recorded in Japanese, and then it comes over, and then they've got to take Japanese, which is like, for us, it'd be like, hi, how are you? And for them, it's like, and then they've got to like fit other stupid words in with the English dub to try to make that fit.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
it's stupid, right? It's dumb. And so like, so you get a lot of the, you get a lot of that, like that kind of, those stupid sounds. I hate it. And I hate it. I hate the whole genre. And I respect the art, the way it looks, and that they're using the thing. I might like it in the original Japanese with the subtitles. I might like that. But anyway, so they would say that, and I was like, I didn't feel anything. It's basically I go into a box, and they tell me what to do, and they like the inflection to be a certain way. So I don't feel anything about it. I feel hot and tired, actually, when I want to leave. And then, and of course, it got laughs from people who are normal. And then the people who are not normal were shattered.
You shattered
And
them.
so
I was just going to say, you shattered those poor people.
Good. Because you can't be into something like that. It's not real. You can't like put your entire identity into some crap.
Yeah.
Like
and lose
that.
Yourself. Yeah.
No, because these people were like adults dressing like they were crazy. And like, I know people be like, oh, but you're a Trekkie. I understand that. But if you've ever met a Trekkie like that is really into this stuff, they're also thinking of esoteric stuff. And they're like usually really intelligent and like have like a heart, like, because it's like, oh man, this one thing. And it's like science fiction, but it's also like huge moral lessons and, and all this stuff. And Roddenberry wanted it that way. It really was an educational tool. But like, it's just like it was. So anyway, my point is that I started seeing like there's a type of person that's coming out that's like, so then it gets weirder. So then I started like around 2016 and 17 seeing with a certain person's younger brother, and his friends. They would dress up like the thing that they liked, but they didn't even they didn't like do anything. It's called cosplaying. I'm sure you guys know.
Yeah.
And they would dress like that, like whatever it was, and hang out. Just in the house, right? Like just hang out. Or even worse, I'm going to hang out with my friends tonight. I got to be careful doing my impression because certain people will know exactly that are family members of that person. But they would hang out on TeamSpeak while they're playing video games in their costume with their friends who they can't see but assume are also cosplaying in that costume. To me, it was absolute mental illness. And I was like, what's happening here? Because it's not like they were 11-year-olds, okay? They were like 21. And so I'm like, and like, what is this? This is a new thing. And then I started seeing like there were shows that were coming on television. I'm getting somewhere with the narcissism thing. And there were shows being done like this cosplay thing. Here's the thing. Some of these people were unbelievable at making their costumes.
Yeah. Incredible. Yeah.
Incredible. And so at the time I was working for 2 production houses, but I was producing a lot of really cool shows for kids involving sets and, puppets and all this cool stuff, like very like nerdy crap, which I love, right? Love puppets. Love it. Love the Muppet Show, all that. Yes. And by the way, puppeteers are the most normal in the fringe, which is hard to believe. But yes. And so I'd done that my whole life, professionally, right? So I would see like this one kid, I'd be like, wow, you made that. That's great. It'd be like replica stuff, right? For like their, like, Doctor Who was big. And so it'd be like, oh, they would make like this replica thing and it was really good. Like, as a person who professionally has had to build set pieces and television stuff for puppets crap and, like, you know, Jim Henson style stuff, I'm looking at this, I'm like, man, that you've got a real talent at this. Like, this is really good. But here's the deal, like, these incredible artists that would make these replica things, like the Zelda deal, I mean, crazy stuff, or like a whole dragon headpiece, something cool. If they made money doing that, the cosplay community would call them sellouts. And so they were not real anymore. They were like sellouts. It's like, what? Look, so what are y'all doing here? What's going on here? And so when I said that, like, to this one person, I said, so why, like, you're still living with mama and you know, play my video games. Dressed like, yeah, you look just like Doctor Who. And exactly. And but great costume, great props, like, great. That's great. But like, you're on TeamSpeak and whatever, and you have no money, and you're a parasite. Like, but you're really good at this. Like, why don't you make money from this? And it was like, oh, was that? Like, I'm not a sellout.
That's crazy to me, because the first thought I would have is like, if you have a gift, learn how to make money off of it. But you're telling me like it's not cool?
No, they did a whole show on I think it was the Sci-Fi Channel or whatever. It was a reality show, and it was the world. Somebody like me, was like, I gotta film this, right? And was like behind the scenes with these people, and I mean, when I say, I mean, there was people hand stitching wigs that you're like, geez, like, that's like Universal Studios next level, and they would get offered tremendous opportunities to come and work for like Universal Studios or Disney or and they'd be like, no, you know, and like,
wow.
Well, yeah. And I'm talking like artist. So one of the things I said to this one person was like, so how do you know your buddies over there? Like, on TeamSpeak, your friends, also dressed up. And then this person said, like, cause I know, like, they were triggered before we started using the term triggered. Bookmark that. And so I was like, okay. You know, and I was like, well, I mean, like, you're really good at this, you know, making these props. Like, why don't you like make money? Triggered again. And then I was like, okay, well, I mean, your costume. He's like, it's not costume, I'm cosplaying. And I was like, okay, but the nature, the root word, it's cosplay, costume playing. Like, that's what that means. Costume playing. Where did the word come from, dude? Think. And anyway, I remember getting a letter, like an email from that person's mother, who might have also been the mother of who I was with. Okay, the oldest one. Anyway, who was a scathing letter. Scathing. My son is the most genius. And it was this whole thing about how he's more successful than you'll ever be. And I'm like, he sits in his room in an outfit and plays video games. Okay. But I saw the like enabling starting to happen, okay? And then that world, like, and then his friends would come over, some of them, and they would all be like wearing like weird contacts and like dressed like this, and they'd be walking around, and then they just sat in a room and like just like hung out and like, okay, all right. But I really thought he was very talented at building those props, and so I was like, hey, you want an internship? You want to get out from mama's house for a minute? Maybe go do it, like, you know, I thought maybe the nice part would be mentor that and like pull him out of that. no interest at all. And so if you think about that year and whatever, and then you start seeing like what was happening, because it was very weird. That same swath of people that were like that were so into technology, video games, tablets, everything had to be the latest, greatest thing.
Yeah.
It was all of life is through a screen, right?
Yeah.
Like they have friends, but they're friends, they've never met them.
Right. Yeah.
Right. They also, like, I don't know about you, but when I was 16 years old, 15, 16, I couldn't wait to get my driver's license to get the hell out. Right? That group has no interest in that.
I know.
It's bizarre.
It's very bizarre.
And they're like, no, they're fine with like their mom chauffeuring them around until they're 30. Yeah. And you're like, so it's a failure to thrive. It's a failure to like, it's a real problem.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we're seeing the rise of these people who are like mentally ill. I mean, they're really like, because again, we built to that. Like, they're mentally ill people. Like, there's a lot of them. And they believe that they're things that they're not, you know, and you can't tell them otherwise. But it's like, if you've lived your life through a screen in that illusionary state like that,
yeah,
and the feedback loop that you've been given is you're the leader of your game, you do the things, you know. And what's really interesting is I used to get a lot of emails from like those kind of people that would be like, hi, I found you on, this is where I'm going with this. Hi, I found you on blah, 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 blah. I really want to break into the voiceover industry. I know you do the voice of blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I can do that voice. They never complimented you on what you did. Nothing. Or like, I like your show and I like your work, because I would be nice to that person. It wasn't that. It was like, I can do that. It was that.
Trying to take your job, I guess. Like replace you, or?
And then, oh, it's way weirder. Like, I can do that. And also hook me up. Okay. I want the number to this, like, and it was like, there was no shame. I mean, it was just like, this is what, it was like a robot talking to you, giving you instructions. And they would get, and when I say they, I'm talking, I probably have 500 of these emails saved in a folder I labeled bullshit, because they're that funny. And they would always find me, though, no matter what, they would always find me. And they would write, and they would say that, like, this is what I'm going to need you to do. It's like, and then they'd say, I'll send you my voiceover reel. And it would be them on like a TeamSpeak mic, live streaming like a video game with their friend. So you'd hear like a whole conversation about the video game. And then they would just start, oh yeah, and here's my voice doing this. Blah, 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 blah. And then they would do like some other thing, and like, and that's my voice. Okay, like, I'm going to save this and send it. And then that would be the reel. And you're like, right? And like, I would call up my people I'd worked with for 20 years, you know, they're hilarious. And I'd be like, do you get these? And they're like, oh my God, it's the best Friday night ever, is laughing at those. Like, I mean, it's like, but I'm like, no. I know it's funny, but like, what? And those people would get they would be shocked that when you wrote them, if you wrote them back, that there wasn't a contract PDF attached. I mean, like, they literally could not fathom why they weren't just instantly whatever. And so this got me thinking, like, they have never not had access. This new wave of narcissism that we're seeing like everywhere. So think about it. Social media, you can access anybody. If you're persistent enough on the web, you can find out somebody's personal email, phone number, this. I can IM them there. I can do that over there. You can find anybody if that's your world on the web, you know? So nobody has had to work hard for something. All of that backstory is taken out of the mix, because, well, I can access this person who has the thing I want. I want that now. gimme. So you have a no, they don't care. So like when we had the cancel culture thing that's happened over the last 5-7, from 2017 and all that, they actually, you're like, God, do they not care that they just lied about something and ruined somebody's life, their whole career, everything in the toilet, and you find out later it was all BS, right? Do they care? No, because to them, they didn't see, like they've never gone through the working hard for something and building something. It's just, they've grown up with media and access to something. So they get it then. It's bam, 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 bam. So that all that backlog of work and history and everything and the things that are factored into that. So, right? Like everything's a click of the button. It's single serving.
Yeah.
Like it's that, which I think has bred a new level of narcissistic and antisocial behavior in like a segment of the younger generation. Really do.
Yeah.
I said all that to say that.
Yeah, anyway. No, I can see that. Yeah. I never like put the two together, but yeah, it really is like that. Everything is right now, food, or like nobody cooks anymore. They like order from here or there, like microwave stuff. Like nobody takes the time to cook like a grandma meal. Nobody has any patience anymore because they're used to getting it right now. And then like you were saying on the flip side of that is that because they're used to that, because they were born into technological like world, they expect it. Like you were saying, like there is no, I mean, those emails, that's crazy to me. There's no professionalism. There's no humbleness. There's no, I mean, like you'd say, if I was going to make an email, it would be very much like, I love your work. I think you're great. I kind of dabble in this. What do you think? What are the steps I should take in order to get to this? Like, I couldn't imagine being just so like, oh, I can do it. And I can like, what? That is wild to me. I mean, I'm glad you said that because that really opened up my eyes to all that. And it's almost like a matrix within a matrix, like you were saying, because we all live in the false matrix now of this planet, and our job here is to reconnect with our higher self and who we are and get through the veil of forgetfulness, right? They have a second matrix, it sounds like. They are so into their games and dressing like it, because I never thought, like, I think it's cute, like the cosplay and stuff, but I've never been to it. I don't know, but I see it and I'm like, oh, they have a character like, and they're going to go as that's cool. I didn't think about them doing it at home when nobody's around. See, I don't know anything about that, but and everybody, to each its own, that's fine. But if you have lost your own identity and you have created a matrix that you have to now break out of to be in this matrix that we're all a part of, human day life, there's no way in hell you're going to get through that veil to the other side. You're talking about two veils you now have to go through. Like, we're trying to pierce through the veil to connect back to source. Now they have to, they can't even get into our matrix. That is insane to me. So
let me take it. So me being the intellectual nerd where I'm sitting here studying all this kind of stuff, because if I find something weird, people out there, maybe it's a Gemini thing, I don't know. But if I find something strange, oh my God, will I pick that apart and study that forever?
Yeah, it's Gemini.
Until I figure it out. Yeah, it's a Gemini.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson's a Gemini, so yeah.
Well, my moon's exactly Gemini, and I get it. I have to plug my phone in.
Uh-oh.
I'm an Aquarius with a Gemini moon, so I pick everything apart too. Big
That's
time.
A good balance. Aquarius with the Gemini moon is so good.
Huh. No, but I'm like Spock. I'm too like intellectual.
That's great. I mean, but you're also like, you also have the compassion thing there too. So that's great, I think. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, it's a little low. I'm going to see if maybe my volume's not all the way up.
Maybe.
It's okay. I can hear you enough to make out what you're saying. My phone's just sucking energy. I mean, I can't keep it charged.
Mine was at 100% when we started. And it's below half now. That never happened, so I don't know.
Mine was 100 and I'm at 17. I'm at 17% right now.
Like, what in the world?
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, me either. And it's annoying. That's annoying. Yeah. Oh yeah, so I was gonna say though, you said breaking out, dude, that's genius. Breaking out of their own matrix, like within a matrix. Because yes, like there was something that I also started seeing, like, there's a lot of these teenagers that or like young, like early 20s kids that were, you've seen on court TV and stuff, that have committed horrible acts of crime, like, and they don't look like, I mean, it looks like just like a chick, right? Like a normal, like 20-year-old kind of nerdy girl, like kind of nerdy, right?
Yeah.
Like that, or guy. And then when they would be sitting in court, I found this fascinating. They'd be sitting in court and then the sentencing would happen. Like they had no emotion at all, like androids, right? And then like the judge would say, the sentencing, like, you're like, I charge you as guilty. You're going to like prison for the rest of your life, right? And then you would see this kind of thing where they're confused, and then they go, and they would just scream, like it just hit them what they did. And I've thought about that I mean, I can say 25 cases just like that I've studied, and I went like, they don't, because of that weird disillusioned thing that kind of checked out of like life.
Yeah.
Nothing's permanent. Like when you die in a video game, well, I'm just going to restart the game. Gonna go. But like, think about being programmed like that from cradle to 20 years old. I mean, really, it's hard to wrap your head around because we don't have a frame of reference for it. But like, that is like a different, so I think that's where Rudolf Steiner's 8th sphere comes into place, where he talks about this artificial construct that this in 100 years from now, from where he was to now, that they're going to start to feel like they're living in unison with us, but not.
Yeah.
And he talked about like the sickness of the self, right? This narcissistic thing, because we are seeing it, and it's very odd. It's mental illness. It's like, to me, it's horrifying. It needs to be addressed like now. Yesterday it needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
And you have like the kind of narcissists that we've had to deal with that just ruin everything. But I have noticed a uptick in what they call, not me, but covert narcissism, which is that victim thing, that like, it's that. And covert narcissism, according to like the real scientific psychology handbook, about the cluster B personality disorders.
Yep.
That's in there. And that's one of them. And it's like, to me, I don't know about you, but covert narcissism, I didn't know anything about until I was like stung by a few of them.
Yeah.
And then I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
Because I never had experienced it before. And they are rampant, by the way, in the healthcare industry, which I had to work in conjunction with, because the children's studio that I produced shows at was funded by a lot of that. And so some of that side of the people who seemed so pious and wonderful and like, and helpful and charity and some of those people were the biggest psychos. And they were women. They were like really soft spoken. Oh my, they were like way crazier.
Yeah.
Than a grandiose narcissist who thinks that they're like, that they hung the moon.
Yeah.
Like that. And I didn't see that coming. So I don't know if you've like,
Well,
I was unprepared.
I wouldn't have understood anything you're saying if it wasn't for a few years ago when I had to deal with a certain person that
Oh, right.
And that, I've never seen that before. And then watching that of someone who plays on your heartstrings and victim this and victim that, and you feel so sorry, because I feel sorry for everybody and I love everybody. And then seeing it's like, okay, well, you gave me this. Well, now I need this. Oh, and I also need this, and I'm taking this. And you're like, whoa, wait. And the next thing you know, it's like out of hand. And then when you're like, no, like I told you this, not this. And
then you're a monster.
Blow up.
Putting your boundary.
Yeah, yep. They blow up at you, tell you you're awful, and then they go and tell everybody else how horrible you are. And you're like, I was just trying to help. Like, wait, what? How am I the bad guy? Like that was a reality check for me.
the covert narcissist, when you go, here's a boundary that you can't, like, actually, no. And any pushback, the slightest bit of pushback, and it's that, it's just massive. And you're like, and then they think you're the monster, but you're saying, like, what are you?
I know. Yeah.
And dude, to me, it's so funny though, because I think, like, if you have been traumatized, you've like had it like that life that we both have had. It's like, it's almost like the universe. It's like they send you these things that, like, God sends you these lessons you have to keep learning. And you're like, okay, good. At least I can recognize a narcissist now.
Yeah.
And it's like, curveball.
Yeah.
Nope. Here's a real interesting one. And then you get somebody like that.
Yeah.
And then you don't see it until you're like, I'm so confused, right? Because they like, you're just confused. You're like, I don't know what I did. And my first run in with one of them, and they're usually female, the covert, because if they're male, they're just oogie. Like, nobody wants to see like a weak, spineless jellyfish male that's like, bleh, bleh, like, no.
Yeah.
But the women manipulate with that. And so they use that to their advantage to prey upon people to, like, do stuff for them, or, like, and they'll have this, like, and I think that they're really terrible, because anybody that's actually got like a sob story really needs help. If you've ever dealt with one of those covert narcissists, you're kind of less likely to help out somebody who really even needs help, because you're like, well, what if it's that again?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's turned me into, like, I mean, even my whole company, I'm like, I can't deal with any more employees. Like, I'm selling everything. I'm going to have one truck, one trailer, a tiny little show, me, my husband, my 4-year-old. I don't want anybody else. I don't want anyone, like, I can't deal with people, because for that same reason, because I can't.
Yeah.
And you talk about, like, the pendulum swinging too far to the right, to the left. It gets to that way where you get burned, and then you swing that pendulum all the way over here, where it's like, I don't trust no damn body. I ain't gonna help nobody. Everyone go to hell, leave me alone. And that's not good either. You really have to have it in the middle, to where it's like, I want to help people, but I don't want to get screwed over. And I haven't worked that out yet. I'm still way over here, to where, like, everybody leave me alone, don't talk to me. I'm just gonna go do my thing, and I can't help people. I mean, there's certain people that I will help, if I really believe that they need it. But with a little bit, like, I can't put my family or my financial needs at stake for other people, which before I very much was, because I do believe you should give and all that. But now I'm like, you have to take care of your family first, because I have put myself in some financial binds where we have hurt, because I wanted to help someone else, because you think that's the right thing to do. But these people, they don't care. Even if I tell them, be like, well, I can't really afford this, but I know you need it, so here, okay, well, thanks, but what I really needed was $4,000, not $2,000, but I guess I'll take this. Like, what?
That.
What?
That blows. Listen to me. Having been somebody the last 3 years that has really reached a low point financially through no fault of my own. If somebody gave me quite literally like $2, I was like, oh my God, thank you so much. Like, okay. Like, or bought me like a Twix bar or something, like, hey, here's some chocolate. And I was like, wow, that's such a blessing. And I meant it. Yeah. But it's like, I have to be careful here. Very close people in my life who have family members themselves who did what you just did, that thing. Like, well, I guess thanks, but I really wanted this.
I can't even with that. That doesn't even register in my DNA.
Yeah. Like a certain person that I used to be with, brother, the one that I was talking about, the cosplay thing, that's how, like, what was the gateway drug to his full-blown narcissism? Was cosplay. But when he finally learned how to drive, because he was like forced to learn how to drive, he was like given like a really nice car. Okay? Like a really, really nice car to drive. And like a car nicer than really any car that I've ever had. And really nice. Well, that's not true. I did have one really, really great car once. But anyway. And then when he got the keys to that, he said, I mean, I guess, yeah, I guess. Really thought that I was going to get like a Tesla, though. And me thinking he was joking was like, okay, that was, I thought he was joking. I was like, yeah, good one. Which then like sent him off the rails. Because, and then of course, my flaw is that after I see that you're absolutely the worst, just especially during that time, and I was like he threw like a fit, like a big baby, and he's like, at that point he was like 23 or 24, and I was like, why do you think you should get a Tesla? What have you done? You know, and then so I'm just like, henpeck, you know, and then it was like, leave me alone, whatever. And then, I mean, he was given like a Volkswagen Passat, okay? Like, that's a really nice car.
And he didn't even want to drive anyway. So, what do you... Wild.
Like, no, and you're not even paying for the car. Somebody else is paying for the car, the insurance, all the things. I was like, I was really hoping I would get a Tesla. I mean, I just, like, it's that thing like beggars can't be choosers. Oh, no, they can. If somebody's over there enabling it. And that's the thing. It's like, what? But I mean, that kind of thing, I thought he was a one-off, you know, I was like, God, what a monster that one's going to be when he gets older. But then I'm like, oh my God, there's so many. There's so many of them out there. It takes 5 seconds to go on a Reddit board and see people's horror stories of getting burned by narcissists. And you're like, what? And especially like, you know what I'm grateful of? I'm grateful I didn't grow up during the whole online dating thing. Oh my God. Yeah. Because like my sister, she's like, I'm done. Yeah. You know, she's like, I'm done. She's like, they're all crazy narcissists. Like they're so selfish. She's like, I don't even understand. And it's a thing. Like like friends of mine who've done that. They're like, I guess there's somebody out there somewhere, but like people who are like on the make looking for somebody seem to be crazy and really self-centered and terrible. Yeah.
And I told my husband, it's funny because my roommate that I live with, she does online dating and she shows me the things they say and all this stuff. And I'm like, I can't. I told my husband this morning, I said, don't you dare die on me or leave me, because I am not like, you will be the last one. I am not going to do this online or having to date again, because it is actually awful out there. I know there's like 1 in 1,000 that are good, but the things that I see and like the nude pictures, you know, if someone ever sent me that, I would I would be like, and just meeting someone. Hey, how are you? I'm good. What are you into? That's nice. Bam! And then, yep. What are they thinking? Men, what are you thinking when you do that?
Okay, so I have a very close friend named Eric, and Eric is a stand-up comedian. He's so funny. Anyway, he's a little older than me, but he's like real youth. You know, he's hip and cool. He works at the Improv Comedy Club, but anyway. But he's one of those guys that has like a lot of female friends, and including me. And he's like, and all of his female friends will like tell him they're like horrible, and he's married and stuff. It's fine. But like they're horrible dating stories. And he's like, I remember one time we were doing a gig and we were in the break room or whatever. And I was like, God, I just can't. And he's like, I mean, within seconds, it's like, and there it all is. And he's like, he's really funny. He's from Philly. And so he's like, I mean, like what girl's going to be like, oh, Prince Charming, take me away. You know, this whole thing. And he's like, it's so aggressive and gross. And he goes, and then he's like, to top it off, the picture's like in some nasty bathroom. I gotta get And it's like, hey, what are you doing tonight? Oh, nothing. You like cheese? Well, you like that too? I mean, it's like, it's just like immediately, like, you like that? And like, what are you expecting to happen with that?
Yeah.
And any woman who's like, yeah, like, run, guys, dudes, run from
her.
one.
Yeah. I don't know any woman. I know there's some out there, but I don't know out of all my friends that happens to. I don't know any of them that are like, oh, I love that. Now, I mean, if it's later, if you've been dating a while or something, or like, I don't know, but to just come off of that, or even just out of context, even if you have been together for a while, just like you said, just like, hey, you like cheese? Hey, you like this? Like, unsolicited, I guess is what I'm trying to say. If you're like flirting back and forth and it's going somewhere, like maybe, I mean, I don't like it at all, but like maybe, but like when it's just out of nowhere, I don't understand the logic behind it. Do they really think that the girl's like, I'm having a bad day, you know, I had to put my dog down and this and whatever, and then it's like, here, will this cheer you up? It does, thank you. You know what? Everything's better now. That was the one thing I was missing in my life. Thank you for sending me that. Everything's great now. You cured it.
Do the guys think that, look, this is where I go. Do they think that we're thinking about that all the time?
I think it's part of the narcissism, because
yes, that's where
it's just like the selfies or something. And you know, what's funny is like when you were talking about your ex-husband, like how he was addicted to porn and all this stuff. I see that in a lot of narcissistic behavior too. And I think all of that comes from the, as you like to say, the red ray, which I love because I use now. It's all root chakra. They're all here. This is dead. Anything from the heart up is dead. It's not existent. It's all this lower animal, you know, their chakras definitely aren't in line, and they're all, I think every single narcissist is in the red and and in the orange, and probably in the yellow a little bit, because all that comes from narcissistic people being very creative. Because when I look back at my life, a lot of narcissistic people are very talented, and they're talented because they do use that ego to build something good. And that's why I was attracted to my ex-husband, and I'm sure it was for you, because I did like my first husband's view of like, go out and do it, and don't sit on your ass, and you have to work hard for it, and you have this talent, and you can go and you can dream and you can be anything that you want. That's what drew me to him. I love that. I'm the same way. Like, life's short, go for it, you know, whatever it is. But then that turned into a quest of wanting to be famous. And my first husband was very famous when he was younger. And he was like worldwide known, famous, like had dolls made of him, this whole thing, whatever. And then he was in an accident. And it took that away from him. And he never, man. He was like on pay-per-view type famous, like at the top. And then that got taken away from him. And he had that taste in his mouth of being like the most famous person, making thousands and thousands of dollars, just whatever, blowing money, you know, buying cars and houses and all this stuff. That was taken away from him so fast. And he couldn't go back to that industry because he broke his back, but he wanted to get back up to that level of fame. And it was a constant torture in him. And I appeased to that because I was like, oh man, I feel sorry for you. And I still, to this day, I'm like, man, that sucks. But now I'm like, okay, that obviously was a lesson for you to learn, because you were at that level of fame. You were an asshole. So you had to be knocked down, but he keeps trying to grab that fame at different stuff. You know, a lot of narcissists do. I'm going to be famous over here. Oh, that's not going to work. Okay, well then I'm going to be this. That's not going to work. Okay, well then I'm going to be this. Nope, that's not going to work. Well then I'm going to be this. Nope, that's not worked. Well, I'm going to be this. You know, changing careers like that is something else I see in narcissistic people. But because
they are good. They are good at a lot of things.
No, they're super talented. I mean, even the other person we were talking about, everybody I know is very, very talented, and they know that, and they have that quest for they want to be recognized for their talent, whether it's they do makeup, or they have a beautiful body, so they want to be a model on Instagram, or they're whatever. Whatever it is, they want to be recognized for it.
That thing that you were talking about, the chakras, one of the things I wanted to say, put that in there, is the red ray up to this, but like there's a couple of different references, but Edgar Cayce talks about this, and so does like the law of one material and some other stuff. They bypass the heart chakra entirely, though. So the ones that are really manipulative and really talented, because you're like, well, okay, like a certain person's mother, who I used to be with, probably one of the most talented singers I've ever heard in my life. Okay? For real. As a singer, that like I have an ear for, I can hear it. And so I'm like, okay, like, I mean, just as far as like the training, the instrument that she had was incredible. Okay. Like quite a showman. But so I'm like, that's throat chakra, right? Like that's like, if you, I mean, really good singers, you're like, there's some real psychopaths out there that are like incredible vocalists.
Okay.
How's that work? Like, how's that work? So I kind of went on a deep dive about that. Like, I mean, you know, and so you're like, God, like, I mean, they're total pieces of crap. But so like, what is that? You know, because that's the God chakra, like the voice of God, the word, you know, all of that. But I looked at it, it was like all this deep knowledge about that from 360 degrees. So it's like, yeah, it goes red, like, so the lower primal impulse now, bypass the heart, sometimes go to the throat. So that's that manipulative serpent tongue thing.
Yeah.
But without the heart being activated. So they bypassed it, which is essentially like, it's like they rev a car like on like that without ever letting it idle for a minute, which would then bring it back into the heart. Okay.
Wow.
That's the beat. So these people burn out real quick. They, that's why they, I mean, they're like, we say stars, right? It's like shine brightly and then you're dead. But it's like, really, I think a lot of it is that it's that they're revving it, you know, and then some of them even rev it according to the Cayce material, law of one, and all that stuff. And Steiner talked about it too. They will rev it all the way up to activate the crown and the, you know, the third eye, you know, the indigo ray. They will activate that, and that's the ones that become truly psychopathic, like psychopathy, because when that's your real high end elite, like manipulators, the silver tongued.
Like cult leaders.
Then it's,
like Hitler or something.
Yes, it becomes like just a serial killers too, because that's very red ray. But then they have that, like if you ever watch interviews with Ted Bundy, you know, and how he'll sit there very composed and he's like, he's looking at, and it's like a snake charmer. I mean, he's able to speak in a way that he's like, yes, I understand that. And he's really connecting. And you have to stop yourself, if you really watch those old interviews with him, to go like, this was one of the most brutal serial killers who's ever lived. But that's not what I'm seeing sitting across from me.
Yeah.
And like to where your own intuitive radar does not go off. Whoa. But there was one thing that he did in one of those interviews, because I kind of like was trying to figure that out, where he kind of turned to the side and I caught like this part of his teeth and a glint, and I was like, like, and I saw the monster, but it was like fleeting. And so I thought, oh my God, what is that? So, you know, you have like your like lower shock, you know, because you look at all these Hollywood people, and a lot of them are real pieces of shit.
Yeah.
A lot of them. You know, I will say this, a lot of comedians aren't. And I think that the one thing that you really can't fake is being funny.
Yeah.
There's no way to fake being funny. You could fake being a good singer because there's stuff to enhance that. You could fake being a good actor. You film it a certain way in close angles, blah, blah, blah. You know, you could train yourself to be decent at dance, you know, all that kind of stuff. But you cannot fake being funny. You're either funny or you're not funny.
Yeah.
So those people, and I've been around a lot of stand-up comedians, some of them pretty famous because of doing shows at the Improv and stuff like that. backstage, not like shows like stand-up shows, but like sketch shows that we would open for people and blah, blah, blah. But the stand-up comedians, the ones who became not funny in the last 5 years, who like, you're like, what happened to you? You're not funny anymore. That's because they're not telling the truth. They're like, a comedian has to see you have to be the checks and balances on society, both for the king, the court jester's got to please the king and the royal family, but they also have to be just as entertaining for the servant class. And if you can't be that for both, you're out of a job, dude. Off with your head. And I think that the comedians, like a lot of these late night guys that have shows, it's like they're not funny anymore because they're lying.
Wow, everything's so interesting. I've always wondered that because me and Matthias talked about that not too long ago. We're like, this person used to be so funny. Like, did we get old and we don't like it, or are they just? But no, that I think there's a lot of truth to that because so many celebrities, I think they have talent and then they do something and then you see them later and they just look like they're not even a person. I mean, have you seen that with celebrities? Where I'm like, that's Jimmy not Kimmel, a person.
Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen Colbert, okay? Two of the funniest people ever, okay? Really. I mean, Stephen Colbert, like Strangers with Candy, all that stuff. Like, he was one of the head writers. Great, yeah. Dude, genius level writer, comedic writer. So funny. But when a comedian ceases to be funny is because if the only thing that makes people laugh, really, is being that's why narcissism, like our true narcissist, has a really hard time being a comedian for very long. Unless they do mean jokes and it's just mean. But then they burn out. But like the comedians like that you're like, man, what happened? Like, you know, like you're hearing the audience cheer and laugh, but you know that it's canned. I've been in those I know what that is. Somebody's holding the sign up. And so, you know, it's lost, like there's no magic to it anymore. Nothing's funny. And it's because like you can't deny what's happening in society. You can't just like keep repeating, like you're repeating lies that like most of the people have woken up to and like see that, like, you know, like you're going along with like a narrative, or you've convinced yourself of something because you are so, like, if you're a comedian, you're afraid to lose your status as the king's court jester, but you also cease to be funny. You know, like you're like kind of the worst of the worst because the comedian's supposed to be the mirror to society, holding it up to everybody, you know, and going like, I'm going to talk about this thing over here. Everybody can relate to that. Or, you know, or noticing something that's kind of like tink, you know, and look, you could pull on that. And I've seen people that used to be just what I consider genius funny that aren't funny. And then I've seen people get funnier that I didn't think could get any funnier. You know, they're now like next level funny because they're so angry. They're so angry now. And they're so like, come on, is everybody stupid? You know, and so, and so they're like really like putting it out there in a different way.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that I've noticed a lot of, and that's part of that narcissism thing too, because it's like a split is happening. And because of these people like that are really like, you know, walking around thinking everything's like, and they're just like,
yeah,
you can show them you can show them reality and be like, look, I got no dog in this fight here. Let me try to help you understand something so that you're not walking around with that. And like, they want no part of it. Right. And so like they're going to different lengths to try to be mean to people or to, you know, I mean, it's really, it's gaslighting. Like now everybody understands kind of what gaslighting is, which is the classic technique of a narcissist.
Oh, yeah.
Is to tell, I mean, like it happened to me the other day at my job, like one of my jobs. Okay. But when I'm looking around and it's like slammed and there's like maybe two of us that are like holding it down. And I was like, well, I mean, we're understaffed. And one of the people that's in charge there goes, no, we're not. but but we're not understaffed.
Yeah.
Like, so you're denying, you're not only insulting my intelligence, which is a classic thing of a narcissist, but you're now like, you're telling me that what I'm perceiving is not real. And your reality is real. What you're saying is that's the thing. And we're not going to say this other thing. Otherwise you get punished. Because if you draw attention to what I'm,
Yeah.
and then a punishment, and the punishment does not suit the crime.
Yeah.
Right? Like it does not, that's another thing too. And like, there's all these coping mechanisms you can look up, like, not coping, but like, how do you get away? And like every psychologist, I have a good friend who's a psychiatric doctor, but anyway, and he's funny, but he's like, there's no way to help them. A lot of the real malignant narcissists, like, the people who have inflicted trauma, you just have to get away.
Yeah.
There is no helping them. And you really, really have to understand that. Like, you just have to get away from them.
Yeah.
Because anything you put towards them or fight with them about anything or anything like that, they use that as like, it's like charcoal to the fire. I mean, they just totally weaponize it,
Well, and they're such good, most of them I know are such good, like, actors as far as, like, reading your personality and then becoming like your personality. Like, oh, you're into that? I'm into that too. Oh, yeah, like to connect with you like that. And so whenever they do mess up or they're wrong or they yell at you or they hit you or whatever the situation is, then they leave for a couple hours. They come back with flowers and this, I'm going to change, baby. I love you, love you, love you, blah, blah. Please don't. I have this problem and please stay with me. I need you. I can't live without you. I really play on your heartstrings to where you're like, oh, okay, well, they recognize that what they did was wrong and they said that they were sorry. And that, I mean, that could work a little bit of time, but it's never going to work. Like, I'm telling you, I've been there my whole life. And somebody once said, like, a snake can shed its skin, but it's always a snake. And that really made me think, like, yeah, like, they're going to shed their mean skin and come back all shiny and new and like, look, I'm going to behave. I'm going to go to therapy. I'll do whatever you want. And you're like, okay, yeah, let's work on it. And then you're like, so what about that therapy? Oh, next week. Well, what about this? Oh, next week. And the next thing you know, it's coming back around. Like, it's never, I mean, I'm sure there are people like have their, Scrooge moments where they're, piece of crap and then they have their guardian come and then they do whatever and then they come back. I'm sure that happens. But I don't think very often. I think, like, who was it? Maya Angelou said, like, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Like, that is really powerful.
Absolutely. Dude, that quote. Because if you go back in time and you think about, like, time periods when you've been rolled, right, by, like, somebody, not necessarily in a relationship, a friendship where somebody turned out to be just awful. And you're like, what did I think the first, like, what was, because chances are you'll remember that gut feeling that you had originally.
Yep.
Now, why is that? Like, it's like, okay, somehow, like, out of all the people I meet every day, why do I remember my gut feeling about that person that first time? Which you very quickly probably dismissed because it's not, because a normal person who is very conscientious and very, amenable and trying to, like, meet somebody halfway and all that, like a good person tries to do or attempts to do with people that they meet. You'll throw that out. You'll throw out that little thing. You'll throw it out because you're like, well, that's pretty judgmental of me to just make a slap judgment call on somebody that quick.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, and now I'm not saying that, like, I haven't been pleasantly surprised before too, in like a good way. I mean, but that's very few and far between, because I could tell you that I never had like a negative feeling about somebody like that was like me, and then they surprised me in a positive way. It was just a neutral thing. But the people that I have pressed override the safety checks, right? Like, I'm going to override on that. Or everybody out there, this is something I learned very recently. If somebody reminds you of somebody.
Yes.
That really took you to lunch, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And you're like, what is it? Why do they remind me of that person? There's nothing about them that even looks like the same. And you're like, doing all the logical things like, they're not the same age. They're not from the same place. They don't do the same thing. They're not even the same age. But like, there's still that thing where you're like, but there's this weird resonant quality that's there that really reminds me of that. And then you know that over there was damned rotten and evil and was just the worst. Okay. That happened to me very recently. And I was like, that's what it was. That's who that person reminded me of day one. And I went, that's odd. And I tossed it out because their social life, who they are, their age, their profession and everything, background, everything, none of that matched. Yet now I know it was exactly that. And so that, if I had one thing I could pass on to somebody is, man, pay attention to that. If somebody's really like, oh, they kind of remind me a little bit of that person that like, I'm like hoping I never meet again, you know, pay attention.
Yeah.
And don't bypass the gut feeling, because your gut feeling, that quote you just said from Maya Angelou, man, dude, that's the best quote.
It is. Yeah.
Because very rarely do they have their shield all the way up, like when, like at first introduction, because they don't know to be prepared for you.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That's why knowing what grooming is and recognizing that is so important, because looking back now, I realize on our first date, all the questions were like, what was your home life like? What was your family like? How are you with your mom and dad? How are you with your teachers? How are you with your friends? How is this? And when you are honest with someone and you're like, oh, well, this sucks or that sucks, or yeah, I was abused, or like my mom took off, or she's a druggie or whatever, then they're like, I got you. This is the right one. This is the one. It's not at that point. It's not about, I want to be with you because I'm in love with you and there's a spark. It's because I can easily control you because you've already been through that. So the behaviors he did to me were behaviors I've had my whole life. So of course I didn't be like, oh my God, red flags everywhere. I was just like, oh, this is how people treat me. And he preyed on that. You know what I mean? And that, man, we got to, like, girls out there, if your first date, they want to talk about your family and all this, and you have a dysfunctional family, don't bring it up. Just be like, it's fine. Everything's fine. With that.
Hang on. I have to plug in my phone because we have mystery battery drainage. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Don't say it sounds the same. Okay. So, I was going to say, when you were just saying that, you know, the real thing like that they're looking for is, and this is like whether or not, do you have holes there? Like, are you damaged?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I'll fill in all those gaps and you'll be mine.
That's where the term love bombing comes from. Have you heard of that term?
Okay, so I had not heard of that term until my sister said it about this guy that she was like kind of interested in dating. And I was like, what? And then I don't know why. I just missed the boat on that. But like, yeah. And then she explained it and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
That's what that is. Oh.
The narcissist will do that. Because mine was like, oh, your family life, let me take you in and I'll love you like no one's ever loved you before. And from the time we started dating and everything was good and it was total love bombing. And then we had a very quick marriage. It was like, let's get married in the fall. No, let's get married in the summer. And he wanted to get married quickly. The day after we got married, day number 1, husband and wife, was shit. I remember crying on my honeymoon. Yeah, same. I remember crying on my honeymoon going, oh my God, I made the worst mistake, but I just had this grand wedding and all my family and friends and stuff. I can't leave. Like, then you're too ashamed to have it then. And then I let that go for 15 years. Dumbass.
Okay, so same. Here's what I found out years later, though. And this is for those of you out there that are like, it's none of my business. I'm not going to stick my nose in there. If everything is pulling on you to say something to your friend, to someone you care about, to say like, hey, you know what? Like, I know you're probably going to hate me, and that's all right. I feel like this might be a mistake, and here's why. Because I had friends that I had known forever that thought that, felt that very strongly, and they still, nobody said a word.
Yeah.
Everybody acted like they were super supportive.
Mm-hmm.
And then I, got married, bawled my head off on my honeymoon. I can't even talk about it. It was the worst experience ever. Was like, how do I annul, like, can I annul this? Like, I wanted out of it immediately.
Wow.
And, cause I was like, I can't do this. But I will say this too. Probably the most evil thing that happened was, the church that I grew up in, that the preacher, because my ex had been married before and was divorced. And so, but the preacher found out about that or whatever and decided to call me, like young, naive me that was already so broken anyway, call me and say that, like, that whole, like, very, I can't even talk, it makes me puke. But like, well, he's an adulterer because he's been divorced or whatever. So that makes you one too. So you guys are going to probably burn in hell. But y'all have to understand, like that congregation, that church, like, it had done a number on me, even though I knew better. But like, my family was involved in that church. That was like, there's part of you, it's like the stuff that they're spouting is fear and bullshit. Like, that, but because it has nothing to do with Jesus at all.
Yeah.
It's just control, and it's just dogma, and it's letter of the law, but they don't even know the law. Like, it's all that. The law is love, by the way.
Yep.
Not fear. But, again, we could get into theology later. Fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Yeah, is that a verse? Uh-huh. Look up the original Hebrew. Fear is the word that was added. The original text said respect.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I digress.
I can't see.
Add effects using hand gestures. What?
How?
Dude, weird thing. What's it doing?
No, that's what I'm wondering. Like, effects using hand gestures, how? Is the thumbs up coming up? Is that what you just said?
There was a whole thing like, hey, do you want to, it was like somebody texted me, but it wasn't a text.
Your screen just went black. So I'm like, what are you talking about?
It looked like a text message showed up and was like your hand gestures are adding some great effects. And then, but it wasn't, it was like a text message. It looked like a person. And I don't know where it came from. Where'd that come from?
I don't know. Did you touch something?
No.
I don't know.
Okay. Anyway. But yeah, I digress. That preacher, though, and it's funny what I was just talking about like God is love and all that. But like, he had to call on the honeymoon. So you added like another layer of psychological abuse on top of what was already happening. So, but it was the worst thing ever. But years later, I had friends of mine, after I was very clearly divorced and was out of there, they were like, yeah, we felt that way like the whole time.
Yeah, same with me. When I got divorced, like, everybody, even his own family and friends were like, thank God you're away from him, God. I'm like, what? No, you remember that time at the party when this happened? I wanted to say something, but I didn't. And I was like, why didn't you? And I'm like, you saw that?
I'll tell you what. It's moral cowardice. And it's amazing to me how many people will stand there and do nothing. One of my family members yesterday that I had lunch with, two of them, we were talking, they're the cool ones, but we were talking about some stuff, and it was like, one of them relayed, oh, English is gone. Okay. A story about how when she was pregnant with her daughter or whatever, then, did I say family members? I meant friends. Anyway, but they feel like family. But she was pregnant with her daughter. That she was, like very pregnant, like 9 months pregnant. And she was like, it was absolute hell. Like, 9 months in, she was like, I was like, ah, and it was in the summer because her daughter Emily was born in June. So anyway, but she said she was at this park, like, and people would be out there, whatever, and she was working, but she'd go there to this park, and she was like, lots of families, kids playing or whatever, and she said there was like a little, like a toddler, right, that was like, like just like got away from the family or whatever, and then like walked out into like the middle, like it was like by a major highway, like I-20. So that's a huge interstate there. And so this toddler's like walking out, and there's like this big truck that's like pulling whatever, and then it like, to avoid the kid or something like that, I can't remember the whole details, but it like flipped, and there was like the kid was okay. And she said there was like probably 50 people at this park, and they just went. And she goes, and they're, just like watching that, like, and she goes, I don't really like, she's like, I just ran holding my belly, my 9-month belly. Like, she was like, I was so hot and tired and just gross. And she's like, I was like running like this, she's like, and then going over there and going like, is everybody okay in here? Like trying to like, do you need it? Okay. All right. Let me run to my car and get my, like, she was like, go run into her car to get her phone to call 911. No one else had called. But she's like, went over there to check, are y'all alive in here? 9 months pregnant. And she said not one person at that park. They were just watching her do that. A pregnant lady.
Wow.
And so here's the thing with that. I think that the conditioning that's happened in society has made way for the narcissist, because the narcissist, that thing where they're grooming and probing, they know, and like on the real top level stuff, the mind control kind of stuff, they really do know, because they've studied humanity long enough on the dark side of things to know that most people are total moral cowards, that they don't believe that they are worthy enough or good enough, or I'm not trained, I'm not the expert, so they won't stick their neck out to go, let me jump in there and try to tell you the truth or tell you what I think, because that's just overstepping. Like, our manners in the West are our downfall in some regard.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens. People will not step in, and I have seen it 1,000 times in like, I've seen medical staff not do their job when a kid is having a full-blown, like, eyes rolling back in the head, like swallowing their own tongue, seizure right in front of everybody within a facility connected to the hospital, like a game room, and nurses and stuff standing there like, because they did all their stuff online and got their nursing degree and like did it, it's very, they did not count for the unexpected.
Yeah.
And also, they're not EMT, so they're not supposed to. They do this over here. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, we all had to have basic life-saving skills in order to handle things. And here I was at the time, a puppeteer in a freaking green screen mocap thing, running over there and just like, I don't know, but I'm going to handle it. Okay? Like,
Yeah.
we're going to be all right. Bite down. But, I put my arm in the kid's mouth, which I regretted later because how.
Yeah.
But like, you're not thinking, you're just like, and we were talking about that yesterday, and we were like, you just don't think about it. You just do it. You just go for it. You just do it. But that's the same part of the brain that should have stepped in your case or in my case, and went like, I really think you should think this through, because this is what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Everybody came out the woodwork though after I got divorced.
I'm telling you. Same. If you hear that noise, I'm in my little RV and Matthias is changing the tire, and the tire's right here. So I don't know if you can hear it, but anyway, that's what that noise is. It's like crank. But
no, I don't hear that. There's some noise going outside of the window here.
Meow meow.
But yeah, there's probably going to be a buzzsaw start up in a second. So, but on that note, like, I think that like one of the pieces of advice we could give people is like, Don't be a moral coward and see something, say something.
For real.
And you know, if that friend of yours gets mad at you because you like talked crap about like the guy that they're dating because you were sniffing like a whole deal.
Yeah.
And like maybe their ego reacts to that and they don't want you to like, because they're like, I just want to be happy. Like, stop ruining it. You know, that's a reaction that I think some people.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know if you've ever been the messenger that's been, quote, metaphorically shot for telling somebody, a good friend, that you think that their partner is cheating on them. Because I've been in that situation too, where I've like, hey, I don't know if you want to know, you know? But it's like,
yeah.
But really though, like, it's like, dude, come on.
Yeah.
Like if you were put in like, out of all the places you could be, you happen to be somewhere where you saw their husband or their wife, whatever, like you happen to see that. Don't you think that's kind of a wink wink? Like,
yeah,
maybe do your friend a solid and kind of just very gently. But I've had those people turn on me and shoot me directly in the, you know, metaphorically in the face, like, and then later thank me for it.
Well,
but then
that's good. But yeah. You know,
but usually not.
You don't want to like destroy anybody's life, but I'm telling you what, man, I learned a lesson. I had a friend who was a friend of her and her husband were a friend of mine and my ex's, and I knew she was going through the same thing because I could see it in him, the way he treated her. And I'll never forget, like, one New Year's, we were upstairs playing Cards Against Humanity. Have you ever played that? It's a very...
Oh, yeah.
So you know how that game is. Like, it's pretty not PC friendly or, like, you know. So the guys were downstairs. Some of them were, like, shooting pool or whatever, and I went down there, and I was like, she's just sitting there. And I was like, while, you know, the husbands were playing pool, and they just wanted an audience. I was like, we're playing Cards Against Humanity. I was like, girl, it's like, come upstairs and play with me. And she was like, oh my God, I've always wanted to play that game. She's like, okay. She stands up and her husband's like stops the pool and he was his like shooting pool. He stops and he goes, oh, and he goes, no. He's like, we're Christians. We don't play that game. And she went like, I saw the joy in her face being like, yeah, I'll come upstairs to like sucked out of her. And she sat down like this. And I was like, oh, it's not that bad. Come on. And she looked at me and she went, like that to me, and I was like, she telepathically was like, don't. And I was like, fuck. I was like, man, I've been there. And this was like 3 months before I left my ex, by the way. So I was already like checked out. Like, say something to me that I can't play this game with my friends. And she was like this. And I was like, okay, whatever. And I went upstairs, and the rest of the night I was just thinking about her, and I was like, God, she's in that same spot. So of course they had a joint Facebook account. Because, you know,
classic.
And I messaged her, and I was like, of course he's going to see this. But I was like, hey, I was wondering if you wanted to like go get lunch or something sometime. I was like, maybe we can hang out. But whoever it was, saw it, but didn't say anything. Well, he had come over a few days later, and I was like, hey, why don't you tell her, you know, like, let's hang out for something sometime. And he's like, I don't know if that'd be a good idea. And I was like, he knows I know. And I'm going to like go to lunch with her and be like, girl, like, let's run away together. Let's leave. Let's do something. Like, I'll help you. You help me. Like, I'm trying to get out. I know you want out. Anyway, that was New Year's. And in March, he killed her. Yep. He shot her in the head.
Was not expecting that to come out of your mouth just now.
It was awful, and it's a very famous case. There's a lot. I'll send you some links. There's lots of documentaries about it right now. And when I found out
this was a friend of yours. This was a friend of yours.
Yeah.
So wait, what was the timing of that? January, and that happened in March?
Or was it April? No, it might have been April. I think it was April because her anniversary of her death like was just out. Yeah, because I left Joe in March. Or I don't want to say his name. I left my ex-husband in March. And then a month later, it was on Facebook that she had died by suicide. And I was like, And you want to know something else? It freaked me out so bad. Like, traumatized me. I couldn't sleep. It was awful. She was cremated within seconds. I mean, I'll just send you some stuff to watch. Because the 911 call at 50, he tried to clean it up. It's a whole thing, and he's still out there on the street.
Oh, wait. Time out. Did they live in an apartment or something? Was he going to be like a doctor or something?
No,
That was
they
a
had a
different guy.
big freaking house. They were actors, actresses, whatever. No, they had a big house. I'll send you some stuff, but and you know what's funny is he follows me on TikTok. Ugh. So I don't know if he's gonna see this, but
So
anyway.
he's not in jail.
No, because he's good old boys with the sheriff and the deputies and everybody, and his dad's like this preacher, like he's well known. So no, he got out of everything. But there are multiple people trying to get it, turned around. But you know what's the craziest thing is that I actually meditated and like tried to channel her after that, and I was like, what happened? Because I couldn't believe that he would actually kill her. Like, I mean, you always think that might come next. That's like the next stage in abuse, but like why would he? Like, why would you do that? But I know she didn't kill herself. She had little kids. That she was so beautiful and vibrant. She was an actual angel. So
Oh my God,
I
the
like
kid.
had her come to me, and she actually showed me what happened. And from what I saw, it was like an accident. He was threatening her. I saw the whole thing. He had a gun to her, and he was like, "If you try to leave me, I'll freaking kill you." And it went off.
Yeah.
And I know that, and this is my first time ever saying it out loud to anybody. And I tried to tell her sister, but I haven't quite. I'm always like, I have something to tell you, and then she's like, we should get together, and then I'm like, I can't, and we haven't. But I saw like what happened. It's the whole case is awful. Anyway, my whole point is, but it's like on a ton of podcasts, and there's videos about it, and there's this like.
Don't forget after we hang up from here, please.
I will. But anyway,
I'm wondering if it's something that caught my eye the other day, because I watched the whole thing on something the other day, so I don't know if it's that one or not.
There's a couple of them, like the true crime stuff. There's podcasts, there's videos, there's a TV show where each episode is about like finding out the true crime. That story is one of those episodes. It's wild. It's so wild because I like knew these people.
Well, that's so weird that we have like a strange thing like that in common too, with like people that like I know a couple of now infamous true crime things that are like still to this day. I'm like,
yeah,
it's insane.
But
dude.
the
Like,
reason I brought it up is because after that happened, I was like, I'll never be like quiet again. Like, I mean, I kind of tried to reach out and I kind of really couldn't, but I wish I could have done more. In that case, you really can't. But now, if I see something, you bet your ass I'm going to say something. Yeah. Because the amount of people who get murdered that are in domestic violence situations is great. And just like you said, if you see something, say something. And I won't let that go anymore.
I mean, being on the receiving end of something not all that long ago, probably the most lonely feeling that I've ever had in my life was trying to get help and having like men protecting men and like police officers protecting men because they actually just have like a hatred for women because there's enough. By the way, in their defense, there are a lot of crazy women, especially in this area, who
it's insane. Yeah, it's not just men.
No, oh God, no. In fact, like, I mean, a crazy woman is way crazier than a crazy man.
I'm telling you what.
But like, yeah, but like,
sure.
So there's, I mean, for all of here's the deal though, like, just for all the crazy ass ladies out there who fake pregnancies and are high drama and, do this kind of stuff and try to frame up stuff so they can get money or fame or whatever it is, all that. For all of them though, it doesn't matter. You have to go, okay, there's a process of asking questions to get down to the truth. Maybe that is just that's like just making everything up, okay, to frame out this because she really just wants that, whatever, that child support money or whatever the case is, okay, because that's very much around here too.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a hot mess, a lot of hot mess going on, and especially in lake communities where everybody's drunk or on drugs and something. But it doesn't matter, like, if that's, okay, whatever the case is with that, You have to go through the process of elimination of trying to ask the right questions and determine, doing the same thing with the man. Nobody gets, you're over here, you're okay, asking those things, and they are supposed to do that. But bias gets in the way, especially in these small towns and these small communities where everybody knows everybody. They all went to school together and whatever. I didn't grow up to where I'm at right here. Okay. So, so you're an outsider. So nobody really has like a reference for you. They don't know your story. They're assuming a lot, and especially in this area, they take one look at me, and it's manifested recently with me not getting a certain gig, let's call it, that I was supposed to get. It was right there in my hand because somebody made a judgment call just based on intellect and how I looked. Mm-hmm. And it was a man who was threatened by women. 100%. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. But I called to try to get help 5 times before what happened to me. Not only was I calling to get help for me, I was also trying to be like, what's going on with this person? Like, I legitimately was like, oh my God, they've got to get into a hospital. Like, this is not who they are. Like, what's happening? I had never seen anything like it. I'd never seen somebody just turn like that. And I was like, it was the scariest thing. It's probably, I'm sure it feels like how some people feel when they like are with somebody that's had a traumatic brain injury and then they're just like not the same person after they come out of it. Yeah. That's what it was like. But it was like, dude, it was so fast. It was like getting whiplash. Like, I mean, to me, when it finally cracked, right? But I was scared to death, and law enforcement, and like things had already escalated to where I was like, somebody please, like, believe me, help me. Nah. When I was taken seriously was that last final time when my face was bruised up.
It was too late.
And that's when it was like, oh, and I saw the look in their eyes when they rolled up and saw that. And it was like, oof. Because they had just been there 2 days prior to that. And we're like, takes 2 to tango, you know what I mean? I mean, they were like that with me. And I'm like, and I was like doing this at them. Like, I know they've got the cams, like they can, I was like that. What was that? Doing that.
Yeah. No, I get it. My ex was a police officer. And you don't know how many times he would tell me, like, call the police. Who are they going to believe?
Yeah. And he was right.
Yeah. And I knew it was, so I didn't call anybody. It never got escalated physically. One time it kind of did, and I shut that down real quick. I think he knew, like, not to really, like, hurt me. I mean, he like shoved me around or slapped me or something, but he never like no. I think he would have known I would have killed him. I think the rage would have come out and I would have killed him. But the rest of it, the mental stuff, was probably just as worse. I'd rather get beaten than have psychological problems even today.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the psychological comes first, though. It's never just like arbitrarily beating you,
Yeah.
It's like for you to get beaten, right? You got to be made to feel pretty small, and right, to allow it. And like in my case, it was like an ambush. But the pattern was already there. The kicking holes in the walls and the psychotic and the threats, all that stuff was there. I was not seeing the person that I was with for over a decade. That was my best friend that I had no trouble with. I was seeing the devil. That was the devil looking back at me. And I knew, I was calling crisis hotlines every day, like on my way home from like, hey, so, and I was like, so what do I do? Like, what's the loopholes here? Because like, if somebody's not going to admit that they are doing some drug that's breaking their brain and making them a psychopath, they're not even going to admit it. Well, they're sure not going to admit that they need to go get help for it. So you know, the law is like, well, you can't override somebody's free will. So every time that I would call, it would be like when he was a quote danger to himself or others, and he was threatening to kill himself, all this stuff. And you know, and that was the first time that I called, because I'm like, yes, okay, cool. He just threatened that I can get him taken in to go to a hospital to get this whatever toxic garbage it is out. I still wasn't like in full like get out of my life mode on that time. I was like, you got to get fixed. Like, what the hell? Because I thought, I don't want anyone to know that this is happening. Like, because we had a lot to lose, you know?
Yeah.
And we did. I did. He did. Whatever. But it was like, okay, we can keep this under wraps. Like, you can go to the hospital, like, and only the two of us know. Okay? Cool. Don't ever do that again. Why'd you hide that from me? Like, you know how I feel about drugs and all that crap. You know, I've seen family members just ruin their lives over it. It's a hot button topic for me. I can't stand it. I hate meth heads more than anybody else. Can't. I have no compassion for them because I know what the drug does and I know how far they will go to get it.
Yeah.
It's unlike any other thing. And so, you know, I mean, their kids, they don't care. Their kids will be living in a trash pile with crappy diapers on and like no food. They don't care because they're all tweaking out like, you know, they're psychos. So anyway, so I was like looking at this whole situation, but yeah, I was like, okay, cool. And I was trying to find out all the legal loopholes and all that stuff. And I mean, I'm telling you, if I remember looking at that one guy that denied everything, and like when he was like, I was still kind of in shock. I was like, you believe me now? And I like looked at him. And he's like, I'm sorry. And I go, you know, like, all y'all. Flush. And that's why small town never gets talked about. Never, nothing. And that's got to change.
Yeah, it really does. Because it's still going on.
Oh my God, yes.
I know people who have like actually gotten away with murder.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's like a known thing, you know, around in this area too. With like, I've got friends of mine who are like, yeah, that person over there, like, you know, pretty sure they did this and that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know somebody that like killed their husband and killed their mom, and nobody said anything about it. And I know another person, a girl I went to school with, her husband like went to war and like he came back and they got in a fight and he like shot her, and like nothing happened because he was suffering from PTSD. So it was cool. Like he never went to jail or anything. Like I'm like, what?
Yeah, no.
Justice system sucks. These are moments where again I'm like, get me off this planet. I can't be here with these people.
And that's right. And that's why this kind of awareness, because I mean, I hope to God that there's somebody out there who's like, oh, cool, this is a really cool episode that I can watch about, you know, and that they are like in need of like a voice of reason. Like, you're not crazy. You know, if everything within you is like, this is prison, this is what hell is like, I've got to get out of this. And by the way, I know we're talking, and I know we've been going too long. I will say this too. It's not just relationships like romantically. You can have a friendship that's just as nasty and rotten.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That is a life ruiner. And those sometimes are even more detrimental because it's like, because there's not that intimacy thing or that risk of like, you know, that part, they don't have the strings on you. So they've got strings on you in other ways, you know, and I have seen and been prey to that before, but people just absolutely ruining the lives of their friends because they that thing you said earlier about grooming, I meant to circle back. Let me say this. If you meet somebody and that first like thing that they start doing is doing this thing where they're like feigning, oh, like, tell me about this and whatever. Psychology 101, and by the way, everything taught in like interrogation tactics and techniques, don't ask me how I know that, is get them talking. Get them talking about themselves. People will immediately, like, you don't have to say a word. You get somebody talking about themselves or talking about, like, just kind of poke and prod a little bit, like, oh, so how was that like growing up there? Did you get along with your family? That kind of thing. People just start talking.
Yeah.
Oh, that must have been nice for you. Blah, 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 blah. It must have been nice for you. Well, not really. Oh, why? What was wrong with it? See, now they're, bam, doors open. And the thing is most people just will walk right into that trap. Okay. But if anybody's grooming you in that way, like first, right off the bat, like especially you're going out on a date with somebody or whatever, it's a friend at work you just met and they're just all of a sudden very hyper focused on you and whatever, and they're just finding you just absolutely fascinating. Have you done anything for them to find you that fascinating? Like, have they seen, like, is it just like, oh, all of a sudden? I mean, people will sometimes recognize somebody special and want to be a part of it. That's not what I'm talking about. This is like a whole other level where it's like they somehow got past all of your boundaries very quickly. Like stuff that is sacred, the sacred cow that you don't talk about. All of a sudden you're like, why am I talking? And they're just like, they're able to get it out of you. And you don't know, at that point, you don't know jack diddly squat about that person. You don't know what they do. You don't know like anything about them, their likes, dislikes, birthday, nothing, who their family are. You got kids, you don't have kids, you know nothing. They know everything. And those people are really dangerous, in my opinion, in a lot of people's opinion. But you have to watch out for that. That's a very much total grooming, 100%. And if you're like, this is like, it's a very manipulative thing. And man, if other women do it to you, like a friend, you meet like a friend or something, and they do it, that you got to be on guard for that because that's a really dangerous person.
Yeah.
Like if you don't know anything about them and they're like literally probing to get every single shred of information about you.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. What is their motive? Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, because there is one.
Yep.
There is one for sure. And I find that scary. I think people think of grooming as like, more like the pedophile territory of like, yeah. And it's like, yeah, that too, but it's the same technique.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
It's the same exact thing. And that's a scary deal. But my gut feeling about, when I look back on it, my gut feeling about people that have been just absolute terminal cancer in my life, like I knew, like if I go back and I go, what was the thing like the initial thing?
Yeah.
It was right there. Like, dude, it was totally there. Like right away. Yeah. And, even the one that I was just with, my gut feeling with him originally was not like, oh, it was bad news. But I thought my original feeling was like, oh, he wants to put all of his cards into this way too fast. Like he's that looking for an out.
Yeah.
He was so young. And he was so sweet. Oh my God, he was so sweet. I had never met so sweet and so gentlemanly. Oh my God, like a little angel. I had never been treated like that. And by the way, that was most of our relationship, was like that kind of sweetness. So, most of it. But the undercurrent that I did see early on was like, oh man, you have so much to figure out. Like you're so young, you have so much to figure out. Oh, and you think I got it figured out. Oh man. I'm like, you want to join this like real fast and you want to just like, like he had envisioned something for his life and then I fit every category of that, including a door out of truly, I can only imagine was a living hell as far as like emotional abuse. from the people that, he was around.
Yeah.
Because I saw that firsthand, the way I was treated by them day one I met them. And I was like, who the... I mean, like, the dad, I was like, excuse me? Oh, no. You will not talk to me like that.
Well,
can you imagine
his nickname is
him,
that
like,
for
going...
a reason.
Yes.
His nickname is what it is for a reason. That's all I'm going to say.
I mean, yeah. When I said where I was, like, where I grew up, and the first words out of your mouth when you meet me is, oh, only white trash people are from there.
Joking or not, that's not what you say when you first meet someone.
Oh, no. He was awful. Awful. Yeah. He called, like, my brother a sterno bum the first time he met. And my brother was there, by the way, to, like, actually fix their vehicle. They were stuck. My brother was a mechanic, worked on Ringling's, like, at the time. But, like, yeah. And then, yeah, it was just like it was such a highbrow. But again, at that age, I'd already... Oh, I've seen your kind.
Yeah.
Like, I already knew what that one was. I was like, oh my God.
It made... it's interesting to think about the parents being like that. And if that's where that behavior is learned, because my ex's mom was also very much like that. And after we got married, she hated me because she wanted to be the only woman in his life. And she had cooked dinner one day and called him because I would cook dinner. And then she would call and say, I cooked dinner for you. And he would not eat my food and go over there because I lived across the street and eat. And I would just be like, what am I going to do with this food? Just sit here and eat by myself. So one time I mentioned it. I was like, look, this is, bullcrap. Like, I'm not even invited or anything. So I went over there and she was like, oh, what are you doing here? And she's like, sorry, I didn't make enough for you. And she, like, gave everybody something. And I went into the kitchen and they were in the living room. And she said to him, she's like, well, even if I made her a plate, I would put poison in it. And I was like, I can hear you. Like, that kind of stuff went on. It went on until right before I was about to leave. She got really sick with a disease. And she actually, I think she could see it because he had done something really, really bad in front of her. And I was crying and she was crying and she was like, I cannot believe I raised somebody like that. And she was like, I am so sorry. I didn't do a good job as a mom. And then she, like, nicely bonded with me because I think she knew she was going to die. And she was, like, super nice, like, the last part of it. Like, I think she saw it coming. And then I left, and then a few months later, she did die. But it was very weird that she, like, apologized and was, like, super nice out of the blue. I think maybe she was, like, on her, like, she knew she was going to die or something. It was weird. But for the 14 years of that, it was so bad. So bad. And she killed my cat. It was awful.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm allergic to cats and I don't really like cats, but this one cat showed up and it was, like, big and fluffy and it was wintertime and it was hungry and it kept showing up and I was like, well, of course I'm going to feed it because, I'm not a horrible person. And so I did, and it was going to, like, freeze that night. And I was like, we have to let this cat in because I don't want it to freeze. So, we let it in and then it just kind of, like, became my cat for, like, I don't know, like a year. And then we went on vacation and he was like, hey, feed the cat, watch the cat. Well, I had a dream. I was in dream state at this hotel in Florida and I felt something jump on me and it was like, I knew it was the cat. And it kind of woke me up and I opened my eyes and I felt like its spirit, like, walk up and go through me. And I was like, oh, God. And I was like, weird. And I told my husband, I was like, I just had the weirdest experience about the cat. I was like, that's so weird. And I was like, call and make sure it's okay. Well, she had said that morning at the same time this happened, she accidentally ran over its head. And we were like, what? How do you accidentally run over a cat's head? First of all, why is it over there? Second of all, how does that happen? To this day, I'm like, did you... Because when they crank up the car and they leave or something, like, how do you accidentally run over a cat's head? Isn't that crazy? That's the kind of shit, like, I was in.
I saw something just now when you were saying that. She didn't run over it.
You don't think so?
No, not with what I just saw.
You think she
I
bashed
saw
its
the whole
head in?
thing. Yeah, with a shovel.
I would believe
outside. Like, pow.
Yeah.
Cool. What a psycho. Anyway, yeah, people that hurt animals, hope y'all burn in hell.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway,
and they
burn in hell.
So speaking about burning in hell, these people were the most religious people I've ever met in my life. Went to church twice on Sunday, went on Wednesday night. Jesus this, Jesus that. Moses hit me with a wiffle ball bat. The whole thing. Big time. And then would like chastise me because I didn't go enough or that I didn't like all that. Yeah. My husband told me that the reason, oh my God, right before we left, so he had this quest to be famous, right? And it wasn't working out. He told me the reason that he wasn't famous, I swear to God, you're going to die when I tell you this. Everything I'm about to tell you is the honest truth. He told me the reason he wasn't famous is because I wasn't going to church. And that I had books that Jesus didn't like, which were all Edgar Cayce. I had a bookshelf this long, full of Edgar Cayce books, full of mystery books. Nothing like
who was a Christian, by the way.
Yeah, nothing like evil, bad, but it was like books about the pyramids.
Edgar Cayce is like the most Christ-like.
I know.
He was a Bible
but he doesn't know that. But he said it was the books that I had. So he said, you have one day to get rid of those books or I'm going to burn them in the front yard. So I had to call Kayla, my best friend, to come over with totes to put all my books in, to put in my parents' basement. And I was just like, I have to put these books in here because he's going to burn. And then he said, after you do that, I'm going to print out the Lord's Prayer and put it in every single room of the house, even the bathrooms. Yeah. And he said, and you're going to recite it every time you go in those rooms because your lack of faith is the reason why I'm not famous. I was what?
Oh my God. Wait, time out. No, time. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. The complete paradoxical thing of like, that's why I'm not famous. What are you chasing?
Yeah.
Fame, you say? Fame? Vanity? Vexation of the spirit? Oh, we can do this all day. And you, okay, oh my God, like, no, like for real, this is a real reaction. I'm sweating. Because
this is why I messed up internal system, because this was the everyday stuff for me for 15 years.
Oh, listen. See, I have problems because I know that's over with, but I'm like, hi. Like, I'm like Liam Neeson in those freaking movies, dude. Just want to like,
I will hunt you down.
I have a special set of skills. Oh, please don't get on my list.
But it wasn't to save my soul. It wasn't the motive behind it was his narcissistic quest for fame.
For everyone watching, and I did this when she said the Lord's Prayer. I know. I say the Lord's Prayer every single day, 100 times a day. Yeah. That's not why I was flipping off the camera. I'm flipping off the camera because A, this asshole assumed that you weren't saying the Lord's Prayer or that you didn't know how to do that. B, who are you again? 3, everything you said is a paradoxical oxymoronic statement. Why are you chasing fame? Is that not vanity? Is that not one of the root causes of all sin? Yes, it is, my friend. And you can't see the irony because you actually have a low IQ. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. I hope he sees this part. Okay. Because they always have like, this is what we're going to do. Who? What? And for any man out there, because there's a whole wave of dudes that are starting to do this whole like, I can't stand the buzzwords like, oh, she's a trad wife, like traditional wife. Trad. Why can't y'all put traditional? Why you got to say trad?
I've never heard that. Okay. Gross.
Oh no, that's everywhere. You'll hear it now. and you can't unhear it. Okay. But there's like, okay, like, there's still men out there that are like, yeah, the woman should be subjected to the man. Okay. A real man would not ask their woman to be like that. A real man, like, that's the whole crazy thing why human beings are so, like, we're monkeys. Okay. They're monkeys. Is because it's like what you can't think in anything but a 1 and a 0. You just can't.
Yeah.
Like, you can't see that the masculine, like, what that really entails. So, like, what being a good man, because if you've really met like a good man, there's nothing that compares. Like, a good person that's a good man that really, like, does the right thing every time and is like, protects their family, loves their wife, would just give her the whole world if he could, like, just pull the moon down for her. Okay. That man, that's like, yes. And you don't, and then the feminine can be feminine and doesn't want to rebel so much against the man, doesn't want to be like, I'll burn my bra. Okay. They don't want to do that because they're actually in a partnership that is like loving and where both people are in the fullness of what they are. So she feels protected, but then he also feels nurtured in the right way, not in an oogie way, but in a great way. And they bring, two of them are whole people and they bring something to the table together.
Yeah.
Okay. That is like, yes.
Yeah.
So in that regard, yes, that's what you know what that's called, people? A good relationship.
Right.
But, you know, everybody's got their strengths or weakness, whatever. But it's like, you know, there's a whole pushback that, you know, I don't know why human beings can't ever just find that sweet spot in the middle. Just get that good balance going.
Because of ego, men don't want to be sensitive because they don't want their bros to find out that they're sensitive because they want to go like watch the football game and drink beer, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when it's like you can't do that plus also love your wife or not, you know what, like the stereotypical how men are, and then you have the stereotypical how women are. And it's like, break out of that. It's like, oh, well, I'm a middle-aged white woman, so I need to dress like this and act like this and listen to this kind of music. Like, nobody is figuring themselves out. It makes me crazy. I have been recently to kids' birthday parties, baby showers, stuff like this, where I'm around other people, and they're a little bit younger than me. And I'm like looking at the decor, looking at the way they dress, looking at their stupid hats, looking at the way they take selfies, the music they have in the background is all the same. Everyone's house looks the same. Everyone dresses the same. Everyone listens to the same crap music. And the men too. It's like, you are an American. You're like this. And the same for imagine younger black people who are in the city. Like, it's gangster this and gangster that. This is what I need to be a criminal because that's what all my friends are or whatever. It's the person deep inside. It's really not even their fault. I mean, we all have free will, but everybody is so, by social media or whatever. It's like we all have a template we have to fit into.
I've never cared. And you haven't either.
I'm an Aquarius.
I've never cared. Huh?
Don't put me in a box. I'll burn it down. Ever since I was a kid. Now with my ex, even with my first husband, he knew I was quirky and I had my thing. And as long as the outside world didn't know it and I could play trophy wife, because that's what he told me I needed to be. Oh my God, for Christmas, he would buy me like diamond rings and mink coats. That was my Christmas presents. I never asked for that. I don't even wear jewelry. I don't eat meat, but you gave me a mink coat. Okay. I love foxes. He's like, here's a coat made out of foxes. I was like,
thanks for my sadness jacket.
And then, oh my God, it wasn't for me because I never asked for that. It was so I could wear it to him. He had a theater in Branson, and there was this big New Year's Eve thing one time, and there was like this balloon drop, whatever, and he wanted me to wear it because there's this like red carpet, whatever. And we get in there and it's hot, and all the wives of the performers are sitting together and all the guys are doing their performing, whatever, and it's like a whole thing. Well, I'm hot because it's hot in the place, right? So I take it off. I swear to God, he goes backstage to do something while somebody else is out, and he texts me. He's like, why'd you take your coat off? I was like, because it's hot. And he was like, I didn't pay thousands of dollars for people not to see you in that. Put it back on. And I was like, no, it's hot. And he was like, put it on or else you're going to get it when we get home, like being yelled at and stuff. So I had to put this freaking coat on and I'm like sweating. And the girls next to me are like, take your coat off, it's hot. And I'm like, no, I'm fine. And they can see sweat coming down. Like that wasn't a Christmas present. You know what I mean? That wasn't for me. That wasn't a gift out of love. Yeah.
No.
It's gross.
Because, yeah, like my ex is, I was talking about like the male figure in his life. So everyone's a reflection of his career, right? The great blah, blah, blah. So yeah. It's like the career thing. So like you can't deviate from like looking a certain way. So it's very much that. I have a couple of friends I was telling about yesterday. Anyway, their parents were extremely judgmental about weight, the way you look, whatever, all that. Like that was like, but it wasn't because like, oh, we're worried about your health. It was like, no, you are a reflection on us totally. Like that's why you exist. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's that thing. And yeah, the hilarious thing about which I'll never understand. I see it around here. Like, yo, if there's one reason, like if you hear me, if I ever call you and I'm like, I'm actually selling the house, I'm leaving. Okay. It will be over this strange thing that's around here where like, it's like all of the women that I'm like working around or whatever, they have like the thing like, oh, you're of this age. It's this.
Yeah.
So what's really funny is I always like they have a mental block on me. So I'll always be like, bam. And I will be like, that's dumb. And then I will say my age, which is like a lot older than them. Right. And they're like, okay. And then I remember one day just to see what they would say, I was like, they're like, well, you just have to start, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, uh-oh, is that reconnecting? Okay. And I was like, you don't have to do anything. I still, like, if there was a roller skating rink here, on Friday nights, my ass would be in there.
Yeah.
I would be in there skating by myself. Okay? I would do that. I have no problem with that. Like, and I was like, dude, why do y'all think it's got to be this way? Like, and they're like, well, you make, like, a lot of crazy videos, blah. I'm like, yeah, because it's, like, what? I'm supposed to just be, like, in a rocking chair? Like,
oh.
What?
No.
I feel more effervescent now than I ever have.
Too. Same.
So, it's like, what is that? What does it mean then? And then there's people who I really got along with that were probably around my age, and then they figure out that I'm my age and that I'm actually older than them, maybe by a couple of years. And then there's standoffishness, and it's like, look, dude, I'm not looking at you because of this or that or the other. Like, like you're looking at me and judging me because I made different life choices than you did.
Yeah.
You made these choices over here. That's great. We're not in competition.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
I didn't have children. And that's going to be to my disadvantage one day. And I know that. You have children over here, person. Okay. You're mad. Like, well, that's why you don't have a gut, problems with weight. And I'm like, no, that's not why. I grew up fat. I grew up I was a fat kid most of my life. Always had trouble with my weight. Always. I can't tell you something. I paid my dues. Something supernatural happened. Here I am. Okay? Now, I got plenty of other problems that you don't want.
Yeah.
Right? But, like, trust me, you don't want those problems. And so it's like, it's like, look, I'm the one that's going to be like, I mean, I had to say this to one of these people I really like. I said, I'm going to be the one that's going to be like, everybody's dead. I have no children. Like, somebody's going to find me, like, in the, like, there's nobody. Like, whatever. Like, if I'm 90, 100, whatever, it's going to be like, and then, like, I'm going to be a ghost because my animal's about to be taken care of, right? Like, somebody. But no, it's that thing where you're like, I don't have kids. I have no husband. I have no, what do I have? I have nothing to pass on that memory except for what I create artistically and with video and with what I write and with what I'm trying to bring to the world. And as artists, that's what you're giving birth to, in some regard. Yeah, but like I knew early on I wasn't going to have kids. I knew that day one of my life, like, boom, I'm on the planet. Yep, I'm not doing that. That's not what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Other people do it. That's great. If that's the way your people are coming in, they got to come in through that way. Cool. But like, I knew that.
Dolores
people will judge you.
Dolores Cannon said most volunteers don't have children because it creates karma, and they weren't here for karmic cycles, and that causes karma. So a lot of volunteers don't have kids. Yeah.
I mean, little bitty, I would say to my mom, like, well, no, I'm not having kids, though.
Yeah.
Well, you will. No, I won't.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I already knew.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, God. And my mom still gets her mind blown about that. She's like, God, you really stuck to that. It's not that I love kids. I love kids. I love everything about, they're pure of heart and wonderful. And I love working with kids. It's great. But, it's a strange thing, and it's like that. This one person, this is so narcissistic of this person. It's one of those covert narcissists. And it was like, do you ever, regret not having the blessing of a family and children? I mean, to be barren like that, does that really bother you?
Oh my God. Was it the 1400s? She called you barren?
Yeah, this is an older one. And, yeah. And you didn't have that wonderful blessing, but I guess you have this covert narcissist. I guess the Lord's blessed you in maybe some other ways.
I would have lied and been like, I can't have children. I want children, but the Lord took that away from me. I've tried to have them, and I can't have them. I would have said some shit like that to knock her down, whether it was true or not.
So I may have said something in retrospect.
What'd you say? Oh my God.
I said, well, some people can't have children. Oh.
Bitch.
So, yeah, I did. I didn't say anything more. I just left it at that. It's not necessarily lie. Some people can't.
Yeah, you didn't say you just said people.
It was a general statement.
Yeah. And then you get into like soul contracts, though, of like the main things you need to do when you get here and don't need to do. And some people, like, that's not in the cards, or you signed up for it, or even like the stuff I went through, as much as it, like, I can't even say it without having like bile come up in my mouth. I had chosen those things to happen to me,
Yeah.
So like if you can't have kids and you're watching this, or if you do have kids, or if you were abused, or you whatever. And I had to learn the difference of saying like, man, I chose this. The difference between that and I deserve this. Because that's very close.
You nailed that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that people get that confused more than anything else.
Yeah, I did. I did, for sure.
Okay.
You ready to wrap it up?
Well, I was checking. I couldn't see the thing because there's a glare, but that's a great way to wrap it up. Is that like free will thing of like you chose this, but you don't deserve it.
Yeah. And the reason why you chose it, like why was I had this as a kid and then I also had it as an adult? Because I didn't take care of it when I was younger, when I was 18 or whenever I was supposed to. So I had to go through that. And then with my whole like the what do you call him? The
threshold.
Huh?
Threshold guardian.
That one. Yeah.
Experience.
Yeah. When I had that, and then it was shown stuff I had done in past lives. And it's like, oh, I've always been too much of a people pleaser. And every lesson is going to get harder and harder and harder until you are like, no, and you actually grow from it. Because now it's easy to look back and be like, oh, I see. I had to have these experiences and I had to have these experiences, and it went on until I had enough and nobody was coming to save me. Ain't nobody coming to save you. I'm sorry. Maybe
No.
somebody will. But you're going to have to be your own knight and get on your own horse and get the F out.
But see, that's the thing, though, is if, yeah, you're right. And if nobody is going to come and save you, because if you don't have the will, right, the free will, if you don't have the intention and the will to save yourself, then it doesn't matter. It's like somebody like who gets dragged into rehab. Like, it's like, I mean, that was where I had to come with my ex that was like, they don't want to go to rehab. They don't want to get off the stuff. Yeah. They like the way they feel. They like these like criminal activities that are going on, and the lies and the deceit clearly are getting something from that. So I'm not, if I drag them off to go to a hospital to get, you know, to detox and be cured of this thing that I didn't even know they were doing, well, it's not lasting, is it? Because they didn't come to that on their own.
Yep.
So, but I'm certainly not going to stick around and be like, well, I'll just wait this one out. Like, yeah. Because there's like, that's the thing, is like everybody needs, like when dealing with narcissism or like a sociopath, oh my God, or anyone that's like, you know, is controlling another human being.
Yeah.
Is probably the antithesis of Christ consciousness.
Yeah. Because, I was just going to say, that's the Antichrist right there.
Yes. If you're trying to control what does not belong to you, belongs to God, right? That person has free will and the authority. They have the I am of God within them. Yeah. You're not God. Who are you trying to control them? Why are you above that? No, Like that's where you tread into some really dangerous spiritual warfare stuff right there. And so, you know, that kind of like way to entrain yourself of being like, I mean, I said this in a video recently I did, talking about kind of a situation that I accidentally red pilled somebody. It was hilarious. Anyway, but we need to come back to learning the word sovereign and saying like, I am like really that word's got some power to it. Like you're a sovereign human being, right?
Yeah.
Like watch this. Watch me do this. Watch me do the weave. Like Texas, the state of Texas.
And we've come full circle back to Texas.
Right. That's why I was like, wait, I could do this. I could wrap it up. No. But really though, like you don't have to like you're sovereign. You have your own thing. Anyone who wants to control what you wear, control what you eat, you know, control your career, who you're friends with. I'm sorry, no. You know, all of that gets really uncomfortable when you're out in public because you have to act a certain way, right? That kind of thing. What are they afraid of losing?
Yeah.
Usually it's the mask. It's the mask of what they have, that what they're putting out there as being awesome. Like I'm the so-and-so and I got my together and blah, blah, blah. And look at my wife, like trophy wife thing, right? And, you know, and all that. And they've like, it's all presentation.
Yep.
You know? And so, like I was talking about the cosplayers earlier, if that's like, you're also cosplaying like that too. You're cosplaying like you're a functional adult. You're this, you're that. That's why I was like, when I saw like this whole group of really young people doing that, I was like, oh my God, that's like budding narcissism. And they're being enabled to act like that. And then it's going to get worse and worse and worse because there's no systems of checks and balances on the internet or with technology or whatever. They're just gonna keep going with this because it's like, I do what I want. You know, everyone's an Eric Cartman. Right?
I was just gonna say, like, I do what I want.
Yeah, it's that. There's no boundaries.
Yeah,
and then there's the kind of halfway present, like authority figure that's there that's like, you're such a good boy. you know, and you created a monster in a lab. And I'll say this, one of the things that I will share now is like, you know, this dark kind of like sociopathy, cluster B, narcissism, that those people. Like one of the reasons, like Dr. Peterson was like asked this right recently, and he was on the Rogan podcast, and he was talking about not everything that cries is a helpless baby. He said sometimes it's a monster.
Woo!
Yes. And like talking about that, why women typically can get so sucked into something. It's like because the nurturing spirit wants to go every time something cries to go and nurture that, and put that to the put that. I'm not being gross here, but like put that to the breast to nurture
Absolutely.
it, to feed it. Like yes. And then he said, because he was talking about the story of Eve, and he said, and really, it was like you put a serpent to your breast, right? Like not all, that wasn't a baby crying in the woods. That was a monster that you fed. And so like, dude, that whole, by the way, oh, brilliant. That whole thing. I sat there and like wrote everything down because it's like, it's so good.
And I think the opposite is the same too, because have you ever seen men who are just manly men, but they see a woman cry and they lose it?
Yeah, I know.
Because because it's their mothers, they don't want their mothers to cry or something. But I have seen men who have been so like stern, and then the girl like is like, "But you told me," and start crying and like, "Oh, okay, I'm sorry." Like something about when a woman cries like really triggers a man. So I think it's whichever is the narcissist, like the women for sure, because we're mother, where we have that inside of us to be like that. But I've seen like grown men like see their daughters being a little, shit, and it's like, stop doing that, and then they're like, but daddy, and then they're like, oh, okay, honey. And I'm like, ugh.
Okay, so he actually does. That's what. Yes, I forgot. You're right. Peterson does talk about that because he said with men. Oh my God, yes, that was right. Because I was like, God, that's it. Sounding like exactly what. Yes, it's that because it's talking about he said, he goes, well, you've got children, talking to Joe Rogan, right? And he goes, and I have children. He goes, and everybody knows that when your kids get to a certain age, they've learned how to manipulate you with crying, but it's a fake cry, right? So like, I mean, we all know, like I know when a kid is crying and it's fake.
Yeah. I got a 4-year-old, I know.
Yes. and he was talking about his own kids. He's like, he goes, so the mother who constantly is running to go and like nurture that and like doesn't ever come to the realization that like, no, that's the monster's crying now. That's not, that. But he said it's worse when a man, like the male figure, doesn't figure that out. He said because that's when they will get with, like, they will manifest like a real psychotic female in their life, typically, right? Or like they've got some mother issues and they're like big time. Like they were manipulated in the same way. But like they will attract like, that very manipulative woman that is going to take them for everything that they've got. Or, you know what I mean? Like, and so could you have that? Like if Rogan was talking about that, he's like, I've seen some nasty, nasty divorces. And he's like, usually when somebody gets a certain credibility, like in the world of like comedy or MMA or whatever it is. And he said, and all of a sudden there's like these like vixens coming out of the woodwork, right? Like no woman was ever interested in these guys before. And then all of a sudden they are. And he's like, and dumb guys were like, oh my God, she's so pretty. And then like, they're just immediately like getting married or whatever. And they're like, they used Phil Hartman as an example because his wife was such a psycho, right?
Yeah.
Like she eventually killed him and then killed herself, like in front of the kids. It was a whole thing, and people that were close with him were like, everyone knew that she was nuts. And he was just like, I don't know how I'm going to get away from her, you know? And he was just such a decent person that he just kept thinking somebody was going to change. And the thing is that if somebody is a narcissist, like, it's not harmless, is my point. You know? Like that friend of yours that you're talking about that is no longer with us, right? At some point, if the narcissist gets out of control and is really malignant and goes into that like psychopathy range over there, they're like one bad decision away from doing something like that. If they have no systems of checks and balances around them, if everybody in their entire life lets them get away with shit all the time,
Yeah.
you know, how far can they push it? And if they receive pushback, you know, and they have a complete and total meltdown, or tricky, like in your case, like your ex, I don't know if you ever went through this where they felt like maybe you would expose them as the fraud that they are.
Mm-hmm.
That's when they're really dangerous. Like, are you going to expose them?
Yeah.
Like what they've kept on ice that nobody's going to be able to see.
Yeah.
If you threaten to expose that, because I mean, we're seeing that right now playing out in the mainstream, I mean, everywhere, with every whistleblower coming out about certain very influential people.
Yeah.
And everybody at this point knows.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And it's terrible.
Yeah.
You know, like Virginia Giuffre or whatever, however you say her name, that was the first one to come out about the Epstein crap.
Yep.
That's just sick.
It's sick. It's really sick.
It's so sad. Imagine that. Like, that's where I go with it, and then I'll shut up. But like, that kind of psychopathy of people who are protecting the worst, nastiest, grossest system of like the most evil shit. But like, imagine that. She got roped into that as a young, like preteen, not a woman, trafficked essentially into that.
Yeah.
The things that she's seen and what has been done to her, and then for that ending to be it.
Mm-hmm. After she said, by the way, I'm not suicidal and I will never kill myself.
Well, she was hit by a bus
right
2 weeks prior.
And then she said that. And then she said, I'm not suicidal, I'll never kill myself. And then that's, and then what does all that come down to? You know, people say like money is the root of all evil. It's not. Because why do you want that money? To feed your narcissistic ass. The ego
It's
and the
power.
Narcissism. That's, with power, narcissist people want to have power. That's what it comes down to. Imagine like a hitman. Yes. Hey, I'm going to give you $20,000 or whatever to actually go murder somebody. And they're like, okay, cool. Why did they do it? So they could go buy stuff to make them seem cool or feed their ego, whatever it is. Like, it's not the money that's the root of all evil. It's the, you know,
the real translation is the love of money. The love of it. So that love of money is the love of having the thing that's the tool that gets you that power, that puts you above everyone else on a status.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, and all of these people that were involved in this disgusting underbelly that's been going on like a cancer in freaking society for God knows how long. You know, that whole nasty, disgusting, psychotic red ray behavior with children and young, awful, with people who could, like, it's because they can't, like Joe Rogan said it recently and I was like, genius. You know, sometimes he'll say something very simply and you're like, yep, that's it. Where nothing satisfies them. They have all the money. They can get whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
When they want it, how they want it.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're like, well, I mean, women are kind of like, I can go and get that prostitute or whatever. You know, I can do that. It's like, ooh, but like, what's the grossest, most taboo, nastiest, horrible thing?
Yeah.
Right? Because they think they're on a godlike status. I mean, where's the morality? I can get whatever I want in this world.
Yeah.
You know?
But then they're still not happy, because when my ex was like, you're the reason I'm not famous and my goal in life is to be famous and blah, blah, I told him, I was like, even if you become famous, you're not going to be happy.
But famous, here's the thing though. Why? What are you offering the world that you deserve that fame?
Yeah.
What are you bringing to the table? Why do you think that is your birthright? To be famous? I mean, that's just like fame for what? Well, shit, you can be. My ex-comedy partner, by the way, got very famous. That was her big goal. She had over everybody. Me, like, I can't even get into it. Can't even. And all she ever wanted was fame, fame, fame. She wanted to be number one, number one, number one. Let's edit Melodee out of this big deal that we have. We're not even going to put her in the contract. She's going to get totally screwed. She's on Ringling right now. She's traveling around, whatever. But we're going to lie to her. We're going to do all this. I mean, it was terrible. She, first of all, like, nobody cared about her by herself doing comedy. They liked the duo. Because it was characters, right?
Yeah.
The duo was funny. Her on her own
didn't work.
Like,
yeah.
No, there's no dynamic. There's nothing to go against. It's like she's genius funny, by the way, but it's like, well, anyway, it was really funny because she got her wish and she got to be very, very famous for just a little bit for all of the things that she probably never, ever wanted to be famous for. She made a lot of enemies and they dragged her through the mud on CNN, and Huffington Post was writing articles and ABC News, and her name was all over the place. Got that fame? Yep, you got it all right. Was it worth it? Because you didn't specify to the universe what kind of fame.
Right. Very true. Very true.
So,
yeah, that was another thing. Like you said, with narcissists, like they get mad because they think you're going to expose them. The other thing that would make him mad is if I kind of outshined him a little bit. You know, that was another thing I could never do. And a lot of times if we were at dinner with people and someone would bring up in conversation about, I don't know, the space shuttle or something that I knew, and I would chime in and be like, oh yeah, I saw that, blah, 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 blah. And then I pour out all of my knowledge and seem like I'm really smart and stuff. Hand to God, he would actually put his hand under the table and squeeze my knee as hard as he could to tell me to shut up. And I would be like, oh, okay. And I was like, I have to stop talking now. It got to a point where it was like a joke, like with his son, my stepson. If I was saying something, whatever, he would like squeeze my nose and be like, hit my knee, and he'd be like, shh. He's like, you better not be talking. Like he saw it, like it was, yeah, it's messed up. I think he's messed up too. Bless his heart. But that's the other thing is like, you better not outshine them.
That's so, man, that's so.
It's gross.
Oh man, it's gross. And you know, the children, you're talking about him, the child, right? Like, well, my ex, like the dad, you know, like the way that both of them were, the mom and the dad. But anyway, to him. So there's like all these, at the time, those people were sharing all this stuff on Facebook about, like, I'd won this major award, right? For a show I'd produced or whatever, children's show. People were sharing the article all over the place. It was a thing. Of course I'm proud of it. I birthed that into existence, you know, like that little character, and it was like really affecting, like, I mean, kids really loved it. And like, you know, I mean, it was like making kids' lives better. They had something to focus on other than, you know, like something terrible that they were going through. You know, it was being pumped into like all of the children miracle network stuff and like all that crap. And, you know, and then it kind of gained some notoriety after that. Well, anyway, so that year I got recognized for quite a bit of stuff. And anyway, there was all this stuff that was out there. His dad called him. I'll never forget it. And he was in there like, like, I know. Okay. I get it. Like, yeah. Like I could hear the other side. I'm like washing dishes or something. What's going on? he came in there and he was like, clearly had been crying, like, just like, and just was like shocked. And I go, what's wrong? And he's like, you know, he went to the gym and like worked out or something, like he just worked that off. And I was like, God, what's going on? And he came back up there after that, and he's like, yeah, I'll tell you. And he's like, that was my dad, like, completely chewing my ass, of why I'm not as good as you are. Why am I not representing the family like you're doing? And that I'm outshining him and the family, and that I'm trying to make him like look like he's less than, and he needs to stand up and be a man and outshine me. And, you know, it's like, what are you doing, you piece of like, you're not even accomplishing anything. To my ex, that's what the dad was saying to him over me winning in war. Never mind, no one said like, hey, congratulations, it's really great.
Of course not.
Never mind, nobody's saying like, hey, the partner of somebody, for at that point, like, it was quite a while we had been together, that raises the game of everyone, right? Like, isn't that kind of a cool thing? Don't you want to feel like, hey, isn't that great? Like, this is happening to my son over here. My son is like, isn't this wonderful for them to have this thing? And here was the thing. My ex was, at the time, like, was doing this big show was the main guy, like manager, stage manager and everything, was over this whole deal at the Dallas Zoo. That was this massively funded project. And he got that gig. It was a great gig. What's wrong with that? Like, we were both at that point at our peak, like doing really well individually. But I had been on the planet a little bit longer. People know me from all walks of life. You know, they react to me in a very different way than they reacted to my ex. You know, they're not going to act like that to a guy as they do to a female. It's a little different. But I watched that and I was like, that's narcissistic abuse. And I remember thinking in it, I even wrote it in my journal at the time, this is going to come right around and bite me in the ass later with him, with my ex. Because I was like, he's not dealing with this.
Yeah.
He's not dealing with this at all. And this is going to bite me in the ass later, because that he hates me. He's going to hate me one day, and I'll be damned. And that's exactly what it was. There was like 2 years of him just loathing, like, you know, but it was back here. Everything I did that was great. And boy, when I published that book and everything for me, I did it for me. It was something fun that I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And it's going to be a funny thing. And it's going to pull me out of this funk I've been in. And it was after the COVID thing and blah, blah, blah. That was like, I think the straw. It was just like, you did what? Because I didn't tell anybody I was writing it at the time. I kept it secret. And then it was like, hey, guess what, everyone? You know, I thought it was cool. And, but I knew that was going to be the beginning of the end. And like, I was like, he's going to get really jealous about that. But, you know, like, he's got his own show, but like, I did this thing and nobody's going to want to. And that was it's just crazy. Like, these parents that treat their kids like that and whatever. No, because that person's going to turn into it too. And they're going to push it. You know, if they're not aware of it and they haven't got help for it and they don't have a good support system, which my ex did not have a good support system. He had like no friends. Like, he had like one friend, you know, because he grew up in that circus world where a lot of those dudes his age were kind of mean to him, you know, because he wasn't in the trapeze clique, or he wasn't in the, you know, that over there. It's like, so he didn't really have a lot of friends. And, you know, it's not like he went to a school. He was like homeschooled. He was on the road his whole life. So, you know, they did him no favors there. Again, he's a man now. He can make his own decisions, whatever, good or bad. He's clearly done that. But I'm saying that, like, that's the domino effect of karma with a narcissist, like, parent too, or whatever. It's like a generational curse.
Yeah.
Right? It's like and so if you're not that person that can break it and like do that self-healing, you know, that's what it's all about. You got to heal it. You got to recognize it. You got to root that shit out, you know? Yeah. Anyway, good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, really good.
Send me that stuff, by the way, after we get off of here.
I will.
But I guess we should say thanks for watching.
Yes,
I know that was kind
thank
of
you.
a weird thing, but yeah.
That was
Maybe
off
this
on a
will.
lot, but that's one of my goals, is to help other people who are going through this, because it's hard. I mean, I wish I would have had a little bit more knowledge when I was trying to get out. Like I said, you have to save yourself, but you also have to teach yourself. And, you know, or if it's not happening to you or someone you love, or if it's not happening to you, it might be happening to somebody you love. So
You got to help them.
yeah. And we all need to collectively pray for these energies that are hitting the earth to help awaken people, and for everyone to step up a level with their soul progression, and to either break out of that narcissistic, like you said, generational curse. If you have abusive parents, then you're usually an abusive parent. And I'm like, I would never to Charlie, ever. And a lot of people are starting to do that, to stop what their parents did and their grandparents did and great grandparents did. So, yeah, if anybody's still watching this after all this time, share. The best way is to get the knowledge out and to get the word out and share it to as many people. And if somebody's going through an abusive situation of any kind, send it to them.
Indeed. Please.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to do that. Do share this. And there's a lot of people who've been through it. You're not the only one. It feels like it when you're going through it, but you're not the only one. Anyway, all right. Well, send me that stuff, and everybody out there, subscribe, like, all that stuff, like she said. And I'll put the links down there. We're all good. And hopefully we can get this episode just like banged out.
Yeah, I hope so.
And figure out why our phones are draining.
Anybody?
Mine, like, literally, it's plugged in. It's plugged in, and it's still low battery.
Yeah. Yeah. Mine's slowly charging. If anybody else is going through some crazy stuff with their phone's battery, please comment. Let us know in the comments.
Please.
It can't be just us.
It can't be.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, and I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
And all that stuff. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thanks for watching.
All right. See y'all. Leave. There we go.